Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Konoha. Super Naruto System, Super Fast Full Level. Chapter 41. Random Psychic Beast Contract Scroll. Using this scroll will randomly sign a contract with a psychic beast, please use it with caution. Lee Jexuan grinned. Random Psychic Beast. It sounds like a very good look. However, Lee Jexuan always felt that there was a breath of cheating in him. Never mind. Leaving aside these two random psychic beast contract scrolls, Lee Jexuan is even more looking forward to what the other 5 intermediate treasure chests get out of. Chakra Potion. The light blue potion looks the same as the energy potion, but the effect is completely different. Energy potions have always been able to replenish physical strength, but this chakra potion can restore the exhausted chakra to its original state. Now, even if I only have ninja-level chakra reserves, I can fight for a long time. Lee Jexuan was a little excited. His biggest shortcoming was the reserve of chakra. With this chakra potion, his combat power has undoubtedly increased a lot. It's a pity that there are only 3 such chakra potions. In addition to these 3 chakra potions, a sickle ninja tool and a crimson scroll were opened in the intermediate treasure chest. This seems to be the sickle of Hijuan. Lee Jexuan pinched his chin. Is this sickle also an intermediate ninja tool? But it's true, at Akatsuki's level, it seems embarrassing to go out without memorizing the intermediate ninja tools. But Lee Jexuan didn't know how to use a side weapon like a sickle, so he could only put it aside temporarily. However, what is the remaining crimson scroll? Low-level Hokage training scroll. Lee Jexuan frowned suspiciously and read aloud, what is this? Use the Naruto experience scroll, and go to any time period of Hokage for experience. During the experience process, you can get rewards by completing tasks. Although the system's explanation is emotionless, it is better than it is easy to understand. Lee Jexuan nodded knowingly. Simply put, this is a dungeon, a side mission. However, now doesn't seem like the time to use this thing. According to the rules of the coalition forces, they have to go to the camp every 10 days to report the battle damage and receive supplies. Let's go to the camp. In just half a day, Lee Jexuan and his party arrived at Dayang. This time, Lee Jexuan and the others are also the focus of everyone. These guys dare to come back. How bold. Didn't these guys defect in fear? I don't know, they were arrested. Defection. Lee Jexuan frowned suspiciously. When did this happen? The sand ninjas they killed these days were not 50 but 30, how could they defect? When Lee Jexuan and his party were wondering, Danzo suddenly appeared. How dare you come back? When he was a teenager, Danzo looked like a slouch, and a few Junin followed behind him, grinning grinningly and pressing towards Lee Jexuan and the others. Why can't we come back? Uchiha Yuya raised his head proudly. I am a genius of the Uchiha clan, and this time I killed it. No, it's not important. Danzo interrupted Uchiha Yuya with a smirk. The important thing is that you didn't defend the B4 area properly during these 10 days. You may not have thought that Anbu has been staring at you all the time. Danzo waved his hand with a smirk, and Anbu wearing a parrot mask came out from the corner. Seeing this, Lee Jexuan couldn't help becoming irritable. The best defense is offense. If you don't even know this, you are really stupid, Danzo. He's obviously a genius with almost the same aptitude as Sarutobi Hiruzen, but he's been around for decades, and he's still living by using dirty means like transplanting Sharingan. It's a compliment to describe Danzo as stupid. However, now the boy Danzo is a genius, how can he bear such an insult, roaring and waving his hands. You little fool, you actually call me stupid. That's right, stupid and unreasonable. Lee Jexuan shook his head disdainfully. This is why you have always been inferior to Sarutobi Hiruzen. What, you say I'm not as good as that monkey? Danzo's eyes turned red in an instant. He could tolerate anything, but he couldn't tolerate others saying that he was inferior to Sarutobi Hiruzen. As a disciple of the 2nd generation, Hiruzuru Sarutobi is really favored by Tomona. Give me arrest him. Danzo roared and waved his hands. I want him to die. Obviously, Danzo took the order from Tobima. It is also because of this that the JNIN behind Danzo, Anbu obeyed his command, and forced towards Lee Jexuan and the others coldly. For a while, Lee Jexuan was in a dilemma. If he didn't resist, even if he finally explained clearly, he would inevitably suffer a lot, but if he does it, with his current strength, he is no match for these Junin. Are you going to tear that scroll open? However, even if you go to the dungeon, there is no guarantee that you will be able to defeat so many Junin when you come back. More importantly, Li Jexuan didn't want to use the scroll in front of so many people before he figured out the nature of the scroll. When Li Jexuan was in a daze, Chinsho Fanjian suddenly appeared, raised his hand and shouted, "Stop, I will handle this matter myself." For a moment, Danzo was stunned, and the Anbu were also stunned. Li Jexuan was even more dazed. "You are the one who is going to find fault, and you are the one who is going to save this meeting. Between thousand hands and doors, is it really such a dramatist? Hehe, Master Fajian is going to personally judge you." Danzang froze for a moment, and smiled unnaturally. "You are dead." Hearing this, Li Jexuan involuntarily curled his lips. Thousand-handed door is also Hokage after all, such a big man can't be so wicked. Suddenly, Li Jexuan turned to the ashes-like face between the thousand hands, and silently closed his mouth. Qian Shou Fei Jian may not treat others like this, but to him. Li Jexuan sighed silently. This is the consequence of playing around. "Come in." Chinsho opened the tent door of the big camp, and Danzo walked in braggingly, grinning grinningly as he walked. "You guys are doomed. You left your post without authorization during the war. Let's see how the master will deal with you." Danzo didn't take the words of Li Jexuan and Uchiha Yuya to heart at all. Offense is the best defense. Don't use this kind of nonsense to make people laugh. The entire Konoha allied forces were pinned down in the defensive line and could not move. Any movement would be besieged by sand ninja several times. How to attack? Li Jexuan didn't want to talk to Danzo at all. This guy has been useless since he was a child. Waste of life, ugly death. Followed into the tent, Chinshufin did not intend to cover Li Jexuan at all, sneered and curled his lips. "Tell me, what reason do you have for leaving the defensive line?" Chinsho stared closely at Li Jexuan and his party. The powerful deterrent power of the shadow class seemed to make the air sticky. Uchiha, who was so proud just now, can't say a word now. "Because we don't need to defend." Li Jexuan curled his lips in disdain. "Only trash and worthless people shiver in their own territory." Hearing this, not only Danzo, but even Sensho Fujian frowned involuntarily. Li Jexuan's diss is not just Danzo or one or two people. I, Li Jexuan, just want to say, everyone here, one counts as the other, they are all waste, useless. Being humiliated by Li Jexuan in this way, even Hiruzuru Sarutobi felt a little uncomfortable. After all, they were dubbed geniuses from birth. Waste and worthless are too harsh. Sarutobi Hiruzen could hold back somewhat, but the sensitive Danzo couldn't hold back at all, jumped up and wanted to make a move. "You really don't know how to live or die, Feng Dun." "Shut up." Sensho Feijian stopped Danzo in a panic, with a strange look of being afraid of accidentally hurting someone. Although Danzo was stopped, it doesn't mean that Chinsho Feijian can tolerate Li Jexuan's reckless behavior. "Li Jexuan, I know that you have gained some fame through despicable means in Konoha, but that method will not work with me." Chinsho Feijian sneered and shook his head. "If you can't give me a convincing explanation this time, I will have to punish you. This time, no one can save you." At the end, Chinsho Feijian glanced strangely at Yamada Junhiro, who fell behind Li Jexuan. Hearing this, Li Jexuan had no time to speak. Danzo jumped up. "Boy, you are dead, wait until you die." Danzo, who is narrow-minded, has already listed Li Jexuan as the second person to kill besides Sarutobi Hiruzen. What a clown. Li Jexuan shook his head disdainfully, and stretched out his hand to Mitwei. "Uncle Mate, take out our spoils." "Okay." Matwei put a bulging ninja bag in Li Jexuan's hand. "There is even blood on this heavy ninja bag that hasn't clotted." Clutching the heavy ninja bag, Li Jexuan couldn't help feeling angry. This ninja bag is what they gained after going deep into the enemy's line and fighting for many days. Looking around, a pair of undisguised disdainful eyes swept straight over. No one believed what he said. No one wants to believe him. Even if he defeated Hyuga Hiroshin, even if he was only 2 years old, he had been promoted to Chunin, but he is not strong after all. He is just a genius, a dispensable genius. At this moment, Li Jexuan felt so deeply for the first time, how important power is in the world of Naruto. Without strength, no matter how much you say or do, you are still so weak. Li Jexuan suddenly felt a little bored. Even if he used these trophies to get rid of his crimes, so what? Without strength, he is still no different from an ant in Danzo's view. From the perspective of Chinshobajian, who has no power, he is just another conspiracy to gain fame. But even if it's boring, Li Jexuan has to let these people understand. Although you all think we can't do it, think we're lying. But I want you to understand who is that short-sighted bug. Why don't you open it? I'm afraid there is nothing at all, ha ha ha. Danzo stretched his neck and laughed. Very good, as you wish. Li Jexuan opened the ninja bag, turned his wrist, and dozens of ninja forehead guards fell down like rain. Ding ding ding. The metal foreheads collided with each other and made a cold, hard sound. The sound was like loud slaps, slapping the faces of everyone in the camp fiercely. This is. Danzo's laughter stopped abruptly, and he backed away in disbelief. Hiruzuru Sarutobi picked up a piece of ninja forehead. The exquisite sand ninja logo on the forehead is shining in the sun. The blood on it may be mottled or fresh, making people in the camp unable to bear to look directly. This is Sand Ninja's forehead. Hiruzen Sarutobi put all the forehead protectors on the table between the 1,000 hands, and his face was a little surprised. Besides, I think some of the forehead protectors are very fresh. So fresh, as if it had just been plucked off the head of a living person. Humph. Uchiha Yuya finally regained the ability to speak, and curled his lips in disdain. Nonsense, this is what we just killed a Chunin team. Chunin. Danzo's eyes widened even wider. Masuzu Hyuga couldn't help it anymore, and curled his lips in dissatisfaction. We killed 5 Chunin and 6 ninja squads. We have almost wiped out all the sand ninjas in the entire B4 area. Li Jexuan curled his lips in disdain. Since the enemies are already dead, why should we defend? Forehead. Even Danzo was speechless for a while. I'm not a wimp who just dares to stay at home and tremble. Li Jexuan curled his lips in disdain, turned around and walked out of the tent. He has no time to waste anymore. He has never been so eager for power like now. Hinata Masuzu and Madway followed Li Jexuan and walked out without hesitation, and Uchiha Yuya hesitated for a while, and then ran out. Suddenly, the scene turned cold, and Danzo looked around awkwardly, but no one could think of something to smooth things over. It's so embarrassing. Others say you are trash, but it turns out that you really are trash. How to refute this? Those dozens of sand ninja foreheads are still lying there. Go out. A voice suddenly came out from the door of Chinsho, and he shook his head coldly. Everyone go out. Both Onbi and Jonin walked out consciously, but Danzo still stood beside Sensho Banma, refusing to leave. Danzo's enthusiasm for the position of Hokage is incomprehensible to ordinary people. In the past, he thought he was very close to this position, but today, he felt a little panic for no reason. I said, get out. Chinsho Fanjian stared at Danzo coldly. Even though Danzo had always been his favorite disciple, his performance today was really unbearable. Oh, good. Danzo touched his head and retreated in embarrassment, but his downcast eyes were full of resentment. At last, except for Chinshobajian, there was no one else in the camp. But at this moment, an unexpected person walked in. Yamada Suhiro. The empty camp. Big brother. Sensho Himama looked at Yamada Suhiro, and called out a shocking name. Brother Hashirama, how can you come out at this time? Your body. Yamada Suhiro turned out to be Senju Hashirama. If you stay in the village, it will only decay slowly. Yamada Haruhiro, or Senju Hashirama shook his head lightly with a smile, stopping Senju Tomonama's next words. I want to see with my own eyes, Konoha's future. Yamada Suhiro's eyes are full of expectations for the future. You mean Li Jexuan? Qian Shoufei couldn't help showing a look of disdain. Yamada Suhiro patted Toikuma's shoulder lightly. Brother, don't judge a person easily from his appearance. This kid Li Jexuan is not just a pompous guy. Humph. Chinsho Feijian was still a little unconvinced. Jingle bell. Yamada Haruhiro gently moved the sand ninja foreheads that were placed in piles on the table. Look, he has proved himself, hasn't he? Hearing this, Chinshufei couldn't help being silent. Those sand ninja foreheads were not only slapping Danzo's face, but also slapping his face. Half an hour. Chinsho-fan raised his head suspiciously. Brother, are you so convinced that Li Jexuan must be Konoha's future? Hearing this, Yamada Suhiro suddenly smiled and turned to open the tent. because I'm not sure, I just need to see. Look with your own eyes, that Konoha's future. Yamada Suhiro laughed loudly and walked out of the tent. At that moment, even Senju Tomona couldn't bear to stop Hashirama. Because, he felt it. The high-spirited god of ninjas across the ninja world, Senju Hashirama, is back again. In the B4 defense zone, Uchiha Yu curled his lips angrily. You fool, why did you come back so late? The captain asked us to have a meeting. Hehe, I'm sorry, I was in the tuba just now. Yamada Suhiro touched his head and smiled apologetically. Okay, the captain should be anxious. Uchiha Yuya opened his mouth and shut up without leaving the captain. The corners of Yamada Sukino's eyes shone slightly, and Uchiha Yu, who was so rebellious, was completely convinced by Li Jexuan in just a few days. Pulling open the tent in Area B4, Li Jexuan sat in the middle coldly, his cute little face in the past was now terribly cold. This is humiliation. Li Jexuan sneered and clenched his fists. If it wasn't for Na Feijian's sudden change of heart, we might all be taught a good lesson today. At that time, with Danzo's character, they must have no good fruit. Speaking of this, everyone couldn't help being indignant. They went deep into the enemy's camp to fight life and death, not to mention that they were not rewarded, but they were even arrested. You know why we are humiliated by others? Li Jexuan suddenly sneered. Why? Matwei was at a loss. Hinata Masashi showed a thoughtful expression. Only Uchiha Yuya blurted out, because he doesn't know that I am a genius of the Uchiha clan. This guy, what an idiot. Danzo cares about the Uchiha family. This guy will transplant the eyes of half of the Uchiha family to himself in the future. Seeing Uchiha is almost as exciting as a poisonous snake seeing a frog. Because of power, Li Jexuan gritted his teeth fiercely, because we are too weak. Hearing this, Hinata Masashizu raised his head abruptly, his eyes sparkling. If he had the power, he could decide his brother's fate. If we have the power of Sensho Bashirama, no one in this world will dare to ignore our voice. Li Jexuan clenched his fists, and Yamada Sukino moved his butt unnaturally, then frowned. It's good to want to become stronger, but he has seen too many people who are eager for success and fall into darkness because of it. For the next period of time, I will practice in closed doors. Li Jexuan squinted his eyes. This time can be as short as a few minutes, or as long as several months. During this time, you stay in the defense zone and don't cause trouble. After a short pause, Li Jexuan gritted his teeth fiercely, but I promise, after I come back, I will definitely make that guy Danzo pay the price. Quiet tent. Low-level Hokage training scroll. Li Jexuan exchanged the bundle of light red scrolls. Untied the binding rope of the scroll, unfolded it gently. Li Jexuan only had time to look at it, and was sucked in by the scroll. Valleys, waterfalls, two tall statues standing. Is that the Valley of the End? This last thought flashed through Li Jexuan's mind, and he completely lost consciousness. When he came back to his senses, Li Jexuan had escaped from the desert, and the aroma of grass and trees came from his nose. Looking around, he was in a dense forest. Isn't it the Valley of the End? Li Jexuan raised his eyebrows suspiciously. This was not the same as what he saw before he finally lost consciousness. When Li Jexuan was at a loss, there was a sudden strange movement in the forest not far away. A strange purple-black cloud floated in the sky, and four resolute voices shouted at the same time, four black mist formations. Okay. Li Jexuan quietly pushed aside the bushes. The scene in front of him made him open his mouth involuntarily. Is this the scene? In the Valley of the End, Naruto had two fights with Sasuke. The second time is the finale, the end of the fate of Indra and Asura. And the first time was when Sasuke defected. Li Jexuan was very impressed with that scene. Sasuke swallowed the Shinxin pill, and was put into a wooden barrel by the four Otonin, and finally used Naruto, who was in the same tail state in the second stage of the curse seal, to fight fiercely in the Valley of the End. Now, it happens to be the beginning of this scene. The four black mist arrays just put Sasuke into the wooden barrel, and next, Li Jexuan remembered correctly. There will be a fierce battle between the four Otonin and Konoha's special ninja. However, at this moment, the system task suddenly jumped out. Experience mission. Save Sasuke. Task content. Sasuke was tricked by Orochimaru, and his life is in danger. Please bring Sasuke back to Konoha. Task reward. determined according to the performance of the completion. Seeing this task, Lee Jexuan narrowed his eyes and said nothing more. He just turned around and left, letting Otonin and the others take Sasuke away. Not the right time yet. Lee Jexuan smiled and sank into the woods. He knew very well that his strength was far from being able to crush these 4 people. You know, these 4 guys have dealt with Konoha's 2 special Junin, Shiranui Genma, and the same foot without injury. The curse seal broke out completely, and it was very difficult for Lee Jexuan to deal with an Otonin. Because of this, wait for the opportunity. Prepare in advance. Lee Jexuan rushed to the front of the group of 4 Yinran, and hid quietly in the dense grass, like a stone, motionless. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. At last, someone is coming. The 4 of Otonin walked quietly with the barrels on their backs, but at this moment, the woods were parted, and Shiranui Genma and Juju jumped out to block the way. Don't underestimate Konoha's ninja. Shiranuo Xuanjian held Chinbin in his mouth, pretended to be indifferent, did not realize the essence of his supporting role at all, and looked like a peerless master. Shut up, scum, obediently die. Tuyuya sneered coldly, and the 4 Otonin and the 4 of them opened their curse seals with all their strength in the first stage, and the curse seal tattoos of Chuan instantly covered their whole bodies. Tisk, Tuyuya really looks much better than on TV. Lee Jexuan lay on the ground, quietly admiring Tuyuya's figure. Although Taiyu does not have a big nai like Tsunade, nor does he have long legs like Mizukage, and he is not even cute at all. But, I can't help but she can blow, flute. A single song can make all men exhausted and exhausted. Bah, Shinobi Konoha. Kidomaru spat out a mouthful of sticky spider silk in disdain, and kicked Genma Shiranui, who was pretending to be aggressive just now, to the ground. Sure enough, as in the plot, Konoha's 2 special Junin are still so useless. Okay, Kidomaru, we have to hurry up, don't make Oshimaru-sama wait any longer. Zuo Jinyujian frowned, and stopped Kidomaru. After activating the curse seal, their physical strength was almost exhausted. However, at this moment, a sharp kunai suddenly shot at Kidomaru. Kidomaru waved his arm subconsciously, flicking kunai aside. Who is it? But no one paid any attention to him. Lee Jexuan rushed out from the grass, grabbed the sealed wooden barrel that was put aside, grinned, Sasuke, I will take it away. How is it possible, that kid? Lee Jexuan's figure is really too small. Just after they finished a big fight, Lee Jexuan stole the wooden barrel before they had time to react. Hurry up. Zuo Jin and Yujin gritted their teeth and roared, Master Orochimaru is still waiting for us. However, it was only delayed for a while. Konoha Xiaoqiang has already caught up. Naruto, Shikamaru, Inuzuka Kiba, Akamichi Choji, and Hinata's genius, Hinata Neji. Team of 5. What did you do to Uncle Ladung and the others? Inuzuka roared, grinning his canine teeth. Where's Sasuke? Give Sasuke back to us. Naruto raised his fist and said righteously, if you don't give it to me, I will do it. The situation suddenly became chaotic. Sasuke was rescued by a brat wearing a Konoha forehead protector just now. Zuo Jinyu shook his head coldly. We don't have time to play with you brats right now. Saved. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise. Don't be fooled. Shikamaru sneered and shook his head. Konoha has no rescue team besides us. Otherwise, how could Tsunade entrust them with such an important task? After being stunned for a long while, Naruto roared angrily, you fool, you lied to me. The technique of multiple shadow clones. These brats. Zuo Jin Yujin turned his head, and said in a cold voice, Zhelang Fang, I will leave these little devils to you to deal with, and quickly follow after it is done. Okay, I just need to add chakra. Jirofang grinned ferociously, and slapped the ground with both palms. The earth escapes the barrier, and there is nothing in the earth prison. A huge semicircular dungeon suddenly rose up, shutting all Konoha Xiaoqiang inside. At this moment, except for the accident of Lee Jexuan, the plot seems to be back on track. And the only accident in this scene, after Lee Jexuan snatched the sealed wooden barrel, he directly opened the third life door of the 8 Dunjia, and light green chakra steam gushed out. Lee Jexuan's speed directly soared to the level of extreme tolerance. Although those guys are strong, they are not Jonin after all. Maybe they have the strength to defeat the special Jonin after opening the seal, but during the long journey, they are just ordinary Chunin. What's more, I just experienced a big battle. The speed of the Otonin 4 will only become slower. With Li Jexuan's current speed, it is absolutely impossible to be stopped by them. Not to mention. Boom. Li Jexuan broke off the bottle cap, raised his neck and poured down the light green energy potion. The fatigue caused by opening the 8-gate Dunjia for a long time is instantly swept away. Come on, let me see, what can I do? Li Jexuan grinned, and galloped towards the opposite direction of Konoha. Even if it costs my life, I will defeat him. The red chili balls were swallowed into the stomach, and among the three of Zuludi, the chubby boy Akamichi Choji was the most amazing butterfly. In just 1 second, Choji Akamichi successfully lost weight, from a fat man to a tall, rich and handsome in an instant, even with a pair of gorgeous butterfly wings on his back. If this pill can't kill people, put it on the earth. The richest man may not be a donkey. What happened to the donkey Wadong? After finishing Jirobo, Akamichi Choji sat under the big tree exhaustedly and fell asleep quietly. However, at this time, Li Jexuan had already rushed out of Konoha's border with the speed of opening 3 doors, coupled with the constant use of energy potions. Sure enough, all of this can be changed with my power. Li Jexuan walked to a corner with a sneer, carrying the wooden barrel that sealed Sasuke. Return Sasuke to Konoha and complete the mission. Do not make jokes. Leaving aside why Li Jexuan did this, does Sasuke really want to return to Konoha? When watching anime, Li Jexuan felt sick. Sasuke went his own way, it was his choice. Naruto kept saying that he wanted to take Sasuke back, but he never asked Sasuke his own wishes. This was just Naruto's own wishful thinking. What's more, handing Sasuke to Konoha. What can he get? Konoha's thanks. Don't be kidding, Li Jexuan is not from this time and space. To be precise, he is the character of Konoha Xiaoqiang's grandpa. He didn't come to be a good person. Who can give more benefits is Li Jexuan's choice. However, just hand it over to Orochimaru. Li Jexuan curled his lips in disdain. Anyone who easily believes in Orochimaru will die a miserable death in the end. Li Jexuan knows this well. So, you can sleep here with peace of mind. Li Jexuan kicked the sealed wooden barrel into the hole just dug out, and covered it with floating soil and turf. If you don't pay attention, you won't find anything at all. Ordinary ninjas would never find Sasuke stuck here in their lifetime. However, there was one person, Li Jexuan, who had to think about it. Hinata Neji. Those white eyes might turn everything he did into nothing. Although according to the plot, Ningxi has no chance to come here, but... Li Jexuan shook his head with a grinning smile. If I don't see it with my own eyes, how can I feel relieved? There was still more time. Li Jexuan stepped forward and rushed into the forest of Konoha. Neji Hinata, here I come. Silent woods, spiders weaving webs. Naruto, leave this to me, you guys go after Sasuke. As in fate, Neji Hyuga took the initiative to stay again when facing Kidomaru. Spider sticky gold. Kidomaru and Neji fought frantically in the woods, and finally, Kidomaru completely lost his patience. It's game over. The curse seal climbed up, and Kidomaru completely lost its human appearance. If State 1 is full body tattoos of a sophomore boy, then State 2 is a complete biological transformation. An arrow through time and space. Game over. In Kidomaru's eyes, Neji had already turned into a corpse. However, when the smoke and dust cleared, Neji Hinata still stood firmly on the ground. It's just that there is an extra penetrating wound on the shoulder. Send chakra all over the body, and then use chakra to change the trajectory of the arrow. Kidomaru grinned grinningly. Sure enough, he is a powerful guy, but how many arrows like this can you avoid? Kidomaru tightened his bow and was about to shoot the second arrow. Found it. A cold voice suddenly sounded, and Li Jexuan jumped out from Kidomaru's side, grinning. Neji Hinata. It's you. The moment he saw Li Jexuan, Kidomaru turned his bow and arrow without hesitation, and shot an arrow at Li Jexuan. Hand over Sasuke-sama. The golden spider arrow pierced through the space, creating a violent tornado. The spider golden arrow shot by Kidomaru's curse seal state, both in terms of speed and strength, makes people desperate. But what surprised Kidomaru was that Li Jexuan went up to him without dodging or avoiding. Puff! The golden arrow pierced Li Jexuan's chest fiercely, and the blood was soaring. But in the next second, with a poof, Li Jexuan's body suddenly turned into a cloud of air. Separate. While Kitamura was in a daze, a weird, zzz sound suddenly sounded in his ears. Parting the grass, with both palms hanging down, the terrifying light blue arc twisted into a knife. Li Jexuan opened his mouth slightly and let out a silent farewell, goodbye. Rachel, gently push the palm, and Li Jexuan's whole body is like a violent lightning flowing in the void, piercing through Kitamura. Zzz. When the lightning stopped, the remaining arc was still beating on Kitamura's chest. In the huge hollow in the chest, the heart has disappeared, and even the internal organs have been electrified into coke. Otonin 4 people, Kitamura, die. Li Jexuan shook his head with a light smile. Under normal circumstances, he would never have succeeded so easily. However, Kitamura, who had tried his best to make a surprise attack, couldn't survive even a single move. Are you a Konoha ninja? Why have I never seen you before? Ningji Hinata slowly came out of the corner, and looked at Li Jexuan warily. Where is Sasuke? Where is he now? Of course you haven't seen me. Li Jexuan shook his head with a smile. In this time and space, my body would freeze to death before I was 2 years old. What the hell are you talking about? Seemingly aware of the danger, Neji Hyuga lifted kunai up. Hurry up and hand over Sasuke. Hand over. Li Jexuan smiled and shook his head lightly. This is not possible, this is my biggest bargaining chip. Speaking of this, Li Jexuan suddenly remembered something. Orochimaru, that is a greedy guy. Can a Sasuke really satisfy his appetite? Maybe, it's time to raise the chips. Li Jexuan calmed down and asked, System, if I get hurt here, what will happen when I return to reality? Whether it is death or the completion of the task, the power of time and space will be reversed, and the death or injury will be restored. Hearing this, Li Jexuan suddenly laughed. Sure enough, there is no tasteless reward, only tasteless usage. There are new chips. Who are you? If you don't hand over Sasuke, I'm going to do it. Ningji Hyuga stared at Li Jexuan nervously, although he knew that his chances of winning might not be high. However, he has a reason why he cannot lose. He is a genius recognized by Muya village, he cannot be defeated. This is the mission of bearing the title of genius. Pathetic genius. Seeing Ningji Hinata's appearance, Li Jexuan knew what he was thinking. In the anime, Hyuga Ningji defeated Kitamura with such belief. But, genius, what a sad name. Without power, the name of a genius is just a name. You really want to know? Li Jexuan smiled and raised a finger. If you do me a small favor, I might consider telling you. What are you busy with? Seeing Li Jexuan's attitude softened, Ningji Hinata couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It would be better if Sasuke could be saved without fighting. This job is very simple. Li Jexuan smiled and nodded. You just have to die. Madman. Hyuga Ningji stood on his head, and almost subconsciously threw kunai out. Ding. Li Jexuan fended off Hinata Ningji's kunai, smiled and shook his head gently. My heart is not at ease if you don't die. Time and space kunai made a move, followed by the grass pheasant sword, and Li Jexuan rushed towards Ninki like a lightning bolt. Blind eyes. Hinata Ningji opened his eyes and easily dodged Li Jexuan's kunai and kusanagi sword. Oh, roll your eyes. Li Jexuan nodded lightly with a smile. But, I don't know, whether your white eyes are stronger or mine are stronger. What? Get the white eyes. Li Jexuan accepted the award with a sneer. At that moment, 2 streams of warmth exploded from Li Jexuan's pupils. Visible to the naked eye, a white light slowly diffused in Li Jexuan's pupils until it covered the entire eyeball. Roll your eyes, it's done. How is this possible? At this moment, Neji Hinata was so panicked that she could hardly speak. Are you surprised? Li Jexuan blinked his eyes lightly, as if a myopic eye was wearing glasses for the first time. The world is clearer. You Hyuga clan, the bloodline that you guarded at the expense of your brothers, unexpectedly appeared on me, an outsider. No, it's impossible. Neji Hyuga threw the shuriken like crazy, trying to kill Li Jexuan. It's a pity that under the 360-degree white eyes, Neji Hinata's resistance is meaningless. Li Jexuan seemed to be hanging out, pacing proudly in it, not touching his body. Li Jexuan walked slowly in front of Hinata Ninki, stretched out his hand and lightly touched the curse mark of the dazzling caged bird. Now, do you understand? Genius. Li Jexuan smiled and squeezed Hinata Neji's neck tightly. I am the real supercilious. Neji Hyuga has completely lost his fighting spirit. When the bird in the cage found out that what he had been guarding all his life was meaningless, suicide had become his only choice. Li Jexuan gently twisted Hinata Ningqi's neck, sneered and clenched his fists. In this life, I will never bear the title of genius again. Danzo, wait, I will make you pay. The battle is still going on. As in the plot, Inuzuka Ya and Zuo Jinyu fought together, and Shikamaru and Taiyu were also entangled. However, all of this is under Li Jexuan's control. There is still a lot of time. Li Jexuan gently played with the two white eyes in the palm of his hand, and grinned. After all, Ningxi did not die in vain, and the two white eyes can be regarded as a good stepping stone. Orochimaru's sound ninja base is hidden in the weak Tianji country. There are a total of 3 passages in the underground base. If I remember correctly, it should be the one in the middle. But before Li Jexuan could go in, a ghostly figure stopped him. Kid, are you lost? Yao Shido stood in the corner, his round eyes gleamed with a cold light. Are you playing a ninja game? Konoha's ninja forehead guard is pretty good. Yaoshido, an orphan, was raised by Nanayu. After killing Nanayu by mistake, he became Dashuan's right-hand man. He was proficient in medicine and studied the secret art of immortality together with Dashuan. Every time Li Jexuan said something more, Yao Shidu's face became darker. Who is this guy? Pharmacist's eyes widened, and he was terrified. Why does a 2-year-old child know him so well? It doesn't matter who I am. Li Jexuan narrowed his eyes coldly. The important thing is, Dashuan doesn't seem to be in a good state right now. Hearing this, Yao Shido made a move without hesitation. Anyone who dared to threaten Master Dashiwan, he would not let go. Countless sharp chakra threads cut left and right like swords, but in front of Li Jexuan's perfect white eyes, these transparent chakra threads are as conspicuous as lights in the dark night. It's useless, pharmacist pocket. Li Jexuan danced among these chakra threads like a butterfly. Can't you see that I have the white eyes of the Hinata family? Hearing this, Yao Shido not only didn't stop, but the attack became more and more fierce, but secretly, many chakra threads flew towards the back of Li Jexuan's first spine. That was the only blind spot in Bian's line of sight. Unfortunately, what Li Jexuan has is the perfect Hyuga Zongjia supercilious look. Look clearly, there is no bird in a cage on my forehead. Li Jexuan cut all the chakra threads into 2, and sneered. Are you sure you want to keep pestering me? How long can Orochimaru last? 5 minutes, or 5 minutes? Hearing this, Yao Shido finally stopped, and narrowed his eyes coldly. Who are you? What do you want to do? Although he was calm on the surface, Yao Shido's heart had already set off a turbulent wave. Because, the blood of the Hyuga family. There is only one real white eye in a generation, and the other white eyes will become defective due to the curse mark of the bird in the cage. Why does this guy have perfect white eyes? Yao Shido realized that the child in front of him was so mysterious that he didn't seem like a person from this world. No, it's not what I want. Rather, what do you want? Li Jexuan opened his palm with a smile, and threw Ningxi's eyes away. Blind eyes. This is just a meeting gift from me. Li Jexuan smiled and pouted. As for what you want, it depends on what you can come up with. What do you want? Pharmacist froze for a moment, then raised his head abruptly. You mean Uchiha Sasuke? That's right. Li Jexuan nodded with a smile. Maybe you can't wait. Junmaru seems to be entangled in a few small troubles. Does even Junmaru know? Pharmacist Do trembled all over. He realized that he seemed to be transparent in front of this little baby. Are their actions during this period of time under the surveillance of this mysterious man? It's not just surveillance, it was actually recorded as an animation, played hundreds of millions of times. However, at this moment, a cold voice suddenly came from the dark passage. Son, tell me what you want. The long and narrow pale face, the slightly squinted eyes, and the yellow snake pupil exude a terrifying aura. The powerful strength of the cage class is suffocating. This is the Sannin Orochimaru known as the Wind of Disaster. Orochimaru came out of the laboratory by himself. His pale face was full of pain. This body has been used for too long. It will collapse at any time. If he does not find another body to reincarnate, he will really die. He needs Sasuke. Long time no see. You are not as cute as you were when you were young. Li Jexuan greeted Orochimaru naturally. You know me. Orochimaru leaned against the wall, his eyes full of doubts, but I've never seen you before. After all, what I saw was another time and space, 2-year-old you. Li Jexuan just smiled and shook his head. Let's talk about the deal. What do you want? The complete technique of immortality. Li Jexuan nodded with a smile. Do you think, besides this, do you have anything worth trading? You want the art of immortality. Orochimaru's eyes suddenly became dangerous, and the fishy yellow snake pupils were slightly condensed. The secret of immortality almost exhausted his whole life's efforts, and he could barely complete the foundation after paying all he had. How could such a thing be given at will? You have a big appetite. Why, you need Sasuke. Not enough. Orochimaru sneered and grinned. Sasuke must be mine. At worst, wait for 3 years, I can still have him. Add white eyes. Orochimaru took Hinata Neji's blank eyes, and curled her lips in disdain. Danzo has given me a lot of such incomplete blank eyes. I mean, complete white eyes. Li Jexuan smiled and stretched out 2 fingers, aiming at his own eyes. You give me the complete process of the technique of immortality, and I will give you Sasuke and my eyes. Hearing this, even Orochimaru couldn't help being stunned. He has seen lunatics before, but he has never seen such a lunatic as Li Jexuan. She actually wants to use her own eyes, these precious complete white eyes, to exchange for a forbidden technique. How could such a decision have been made if one hadn't shared the same fanatical dream of immortality? Interesting, really interesting. Orochimaru applauded lightly, took out a small purple scroll from his clothes, and threw it over. This is yours. As soon as Li Jexuan took the scroll, the system sounded. Acquire, complete undead secret art scroll. Scrolls include the Book of Undead Reincarnation, and the secret art of curse sealing. It has been recognized by the system, which shows that Orochimaru is not playing tricks. Li Jexuan stretched out his hands, in front of Orochimaru, forcefully gouged out his own eyes. Oshimaru, this is what I promised you. After receiving the white eyes, Yao Shido was very excited. This is indeed a perfect white eye. With this, many studies can be restarted. As for Sasuke, he is 7 kilometers away and 300 paces to the left. If you hurry up, you will still have time. After speaking, Li Jexuan sat back calmly. As soon as Medicine Master heard Sasuke's exact location, he rushed out. After a short silence, it turned out that Dashi Wan took the initiative to walk towards Li Jexuan. I can tell that you have really seen me before. Yeah, we had a fight. Being idle is also idle. Li Jexuan is willing to chat with Dashawan. After all, this is another form of old friend. Who's winning? I won, and I won very reluctantly. Li Jexuan shook his head with a smile. Actually, you were stronger than me at that time, and I relied on foreign objects. Li Jexuan sat on the spot, talking with Dashawan while laughing. At this moment, the pharmacist came back. This child is actually able to get so close to Master Orochimaru. The pharmacist raised his glasses to cover his surprised gaze. Orochimaru has no such thing as friends. Coming back with him was the sealed wooden barrel that was emitting purple smoke. Sasuke hadn't untied the seal yet, and was still in suspended animation. Master Orochimaru, hurry up and reincarnate. Yao Shido was a little anxious, he valued Dashuan's life more than him. However, Orochimaru stood up suddenly, and took out a small piece of white snake skin from his arms. This is the white snake slough. Without the help of Ryuji Cave, the curse seal cannot be activated. Because, the power of the curse seal comes from Longdi Cave. After finishing speaking, Orochimaru took the sealed wooden barrel and sank into the darkness. Li Jexuan suddenly felt a cold sweat as he grabbed the white snake shedding its skin. After all, he is not Baidu Encyclopedia, so he cannot record all the details in Hokage. The power of the curse seal comes from Longdi Cave. Li Jexuan ignored this point. Until the end, Orochimaru actually kept a hand. If Orochimaru hadn't been moved by Li Jexuan's spirit of pursuing immortality, this trip might have been in vain. At this moment, the system suddenly sent a reminder to Li Jexuan. Mission failed. This experience is about to end. Mission failed. This also means that Orochimaru has succeeded. Before Li Jexuan could confirm, an uncontrollable sense of dizziness hit him violently. Li Jexuan knew that he was about to leave this world soon, and shouted with a smile, Oshiwan, you were cuter when you were young. Opening his eyes again, Li Jexuan had already returned to the tent. The eyes have changed from white eyes to the original eyes, and the sky outside is still bright. The time of the experience world is not synchronized with this time and space. The system gave an appropriate explanation. This guy has always been like this. He never wastes his tongue when he doesn't need it. Take stock of the harvest and consumption of this experience. Li Jexuan turned on the system. This time he spent 3 bottles of energy medicine, 1 bottle of chakra medicine, and the reward of white eyes on the way. The rewards obtained are also very simple: Orochimaru's secret technique of immortality, and a piece of white snake shed skin. It seems that it is still a loss. Except for a little bit more chakra content, there is almost no improvement in attributes. Character: Li Jexuan. Chakra level: Ninja Basic 65 100ths. Ninja Tools: Space-Time Kunai, Grass Pheasant Sword, Flying Sickle. Items: 33 bottles of Energy Potion, 2 bottles of Chakra Potion. Master Ninjutsu: Shaoleki A-, 8 Dunjia Injury Doors A. Earth Flow Wall B. Wind Breakthrough C. Spiritualism. Xian: 6.5. Jing: 0. Yin: 6. Ti: 8. Ren: 10. Huan: 1. Su: 12. Li: 10. With such power, Danzo is invincible. Li Jexuan nodded secretly, and picked up the white snake shedding skin in his hand. This white snake molting played a very important role in the growth of Dashawan. Transplanting white snake cells and signing a blood contract summoning with 10,000 snakes in Ryuji Cave, it can be said that without this white snake shedding its skin, there would be no Orochimaru that runs through the entire Hokage. The location of Longdi Cave is actually not difficult to find. Even lost travelers stray into it from time to time. However, Li Jexuan doesn't have that much time. More importantly, Li Jexuan did not believe that Orochimaru entered the Ryuji Cave through conventional methods. The young Orochimaru also didn't have the time, and went all over the world to find the Ryuji Cave step by step. This means that spirituality, spiritualism is easy to say, but its essence is the same as substitution. It is a high-end space-time ninjutsu. Since spiritism can bring the 10,000 snakes in Longdi Cave here, it means that if he reverses the spiritism and uses the white snake's shedding as a medium, he can also return to Longdi Cave. No time to explain, get in the car. Wei Shen Yu Shu Hai. Reversing the spirit technique, Li Jexuan cut his palm and slapped the white snake's shedding skin hard. Just after the seal was formed, a large amount of chakra was lost. A strange sense of weightlessness hit Li Jexuan, and the whole world spun violently. This feeling is like being thrown into a toilet, spinning, jumping. My eyes are closed. Congratulations on your achievement, channeling myself. When the rotation disappeared, Li Jexuan opened his eyes, and the scene in front of him made him open his mouth involuntarily. Hiss, hiss, Bibi, you are so fierce. Hiss, hiss, sweetheart, your figure is really hot. 2 huge long snakes, one red and one green, were fiercely entangled, and the steel-like scales rubbed against each other, spewing out terrifying sparks, and the huge tail whipped excitedly, crushing everything it touched into powder. Seeing these 2 big snakes, Li Jexuan was sure that he had arrived at Longdi Cave, but the embarrassing thing is that the time and place of his appearance seem inappropriate. After 3 to 10 minutes of fierce fighting, the 2 big snakes finally found Li Jexuan. Ah, why is there a human here? The giant red snake shrank aside shyly, looking at Li Jexuan with doubtful eyes. The green giant snake glared at Li Jexuan angrily with its eyes the size of a manhole cover. How did this human get in? If you don't give me a perfect explanation, I'll eat you. The green giant snake is a little irritable, and Li Jexuan can understand. As a man, it is inevitable that he will get angry if he is inexplicably interrupted. I used this to get in. Li Jexuan opened his palm, revealing the shed skin of the white snake. The skin of the ancestor. What should I do? Several huge white snakes surrounded Li Jexuan tightly, and the smallest one stared at Li Jexuan closely, almost drooling. Can you eat him? Cannot. The biggest white snake gave a negative answer, picked up the piece of white snake's shed skin, shook his head and said, "This is the skin of our ancestors, and it has its smell on it." However, according to the rules, only those who pass the 3 tests can be allowed to meet the ancestors. The white snake in the middle also put forward different opinions. We can't break the rules set by our ancestors. Hearing this, the biggest white snake slapped its tail fiercely. If you can't eat it, and you can't send it in directly, then let him pass the test. Li Jexuan has almost no right to choose, but this is already the best result. Li Jexuan was sent to the first trial level. Welcome to Ryuji Cave. The beautiful singer nodded and smiled at Li Jexuan. The bright and luxurious hall was full of delicacies, and the tangy aroma made people linger. Faced with such a feast, those who came here after exhausting their trek would almost subconsciously feast on it. But if this is the case, it will fall right into the arms of Bai Shishin Shinshinji. Li Jexuan curled his lips in disdain, and knocked all the delicacies to the ground. I don't want to eat it. With a sentence of, don't eat, the illusion, in front of me is self-destructing. The bright palace and delicious delicacies disappeared, and the originally sweet and pleasant diva also turned into a terrifying existence that is half human and half snake. This singer is the high-ranking officer of Ryuji Cave Tien Shinshenji. You fool, why are you indifferent to my food? Tien Shinshenji grinned, terrifying snake teeth hovering over Li Jexuan's head, as if ready to bite down at any time. Because, Grandpa is happy. Li Jexuan curled his lips in disdain. Although these white snakes are powerful, as a high-level executive in Ryuji Cave, he has no possibility of succeeding in the blood contract. In this case, Li Jexuan doesn't need to save face for her. Ah, I'm pissed off. Tien Shinshenji clenched her fists, wishing to swallow Li Jexuan in one gulp, but due to the rules, she could only watch Li Jexuan walk towards the next trial. Sister, don't worry, it's impossible for him to see that it's a fantasy. Maybe it's because you're not hungry, so you don't eat your illusion food. Ikikijima Haim, who looks like a loli, stretched out a long snake letter. When he arrives at my trial, he will definitely not be able to decipher the mystery. Let me eat him and avenge my sister. With Tien Shinshenji's ability, Li Jexuan really didn't see that it was an illusion, but it couldn't be prevented. Li Jexuan had read the blogger's biography. The second trial is a huge stone that cannot be pushed away by human power. But there are many holes in the boulder, and there are many gems scattered around the stone. Jigsaw puzzle. Li Jexuan grinned in pain, although he noticed that this trial was a bit brain-dead when he was watching bloggers, but it was too brain-dead. There are countless gems here, and you have to find the right one among them. Shiba Shenji floated aside, smiling and voicing snake letters. When you are exhausted, I will eat you. It's a pity that Li Jexuan didn't bother to find a suitable gemstone at all. Just grabbed a gemstone, broke it with his hands, and stuffed it in according to the shape. After 1 minute, a huge organ stone rose up. How can that be? Shichu Shenji opened her mouth wide in surprise. Why don't you look for a suitable gemstone? Hearing this, Li Jexuan stopped in his tracks, looked at Shichu Shenji with a strange expression, nodded every word and said, because, I'm not stupid. Quote. There was silence for a while, until Li Jexuan walked away. Shichu Shenji suddenly came back to her senses. Is he calling me stupid? Hateful. The third test. In the thick cloud and mist, a ferocious snake's head stretched out fiercely and bit Li Jexuan's neck. Unstoppable, Li Jexuan fell down. Matwei came out unexpectedly. Captain, because of you, we were all captured by Danzo. Immediately afterwards, Tsunade also came out, looking at Li Jexuan with a miserable face. Why, you failed to save second grandpa. Then Matwell came out again. And then Tsunade again. Mitwei and Tsunade almost acted as a duo. Is it over yet? Li Jexuan curled his lips in disdain. Would it be okay to show something new when showing a movie? Hearing Li Jexuan's scolding, Tuanjinji came out a little shyly. I can't help it, I searched and found only these two people. In Li Jexuan's life, in his short life of 2 years old, he only had 2 people he cared about. All in all, Li Jexuan passed the test. The clouds cleared, and a temple named Ryuji Cave appeared in front of Li Jexuan. This is where immortal white snake lives. Pushing open the temple door, a huge white snake was lying coiled on the stone chair. Its fishy yellow pupils stared closely at Li Jexuan for 10 minutes. How is it possible? I can't see through your fate. Immortal white snake suddenly jumped up from the bed, and dropped the pipe that had been dangling from his mouth to the ground. Similar to Immortal Toad's ability to predict the future of the world, Immortal White Snake has the ability to see through the fate of those who come to practice. However, what surprised the snake was, it couldn't see through Li Jexuan's fate. It was like a wall, completely blocking Immortal White Snake's sight. Weird things, strange things. Immortal White Snake murmured for a long time before thinking of something serious. You want to gain my power? Li Jexuan nodded affirmatively. I didn't come here to gain strength, did I come to see you getting nervous? Very good. Immortal White Snake stretched out the snake's head fiercely, bit Li Jexuan's neck, and poured a large amount of natural energy into it. As soon as this natural energy was injected into Li Jexuan's body, a violent reaction began to occur. Li Jexuan's hands and feet began to grow slowly, and snake-like scales appeared on his skin. But suddenly, Li Jexuan spat out a mouthful of blood. He seemed unable to withstand the natural energy and successfully transformed into a fairy. There seems to be nothing unusual. Immortal White Snake murmured to himself. Maybe, it's just that my ability to predict fate has weakened. But when the White Snake Immortal was about to eat Li Jexuan poured himself a bottle of energy potion. Ever since, Li Jexuan was resurrected with full blood. Huh, what's the situation? Immortal White Snake froze for a moment, then poured it in for a while. Li Jexuan's eyes also began to appear fairy-like snake pupils, and there were more and more snake scales on his body. Puff! With another mouthful of blood, Li Jexuan fell to his knees and began to tremble. It's all right now. Immortal White Snake was about to let go and eat Li Jexuan. Guru! After another bottle of energy potion was swallowed, Li Jexuan stood up again. Immediately afterwards, he knelt down again. This cycle repeated dozens of times, until the White Snake Immortal was almost as dry as a snake. Li Jexuan finally succeeded in transforming into an immortal, and has a stable immortal mode. It's not so much the snake fairy mode, it's better to say it's the dragon fairy mode. A small pure white horn stood on top of Li Jexuan's head, and the silver scales on his body were as big as a palm, like a luxurious coat. Two ferocious little silver snakes were wrapped around their arms, agile and ferocious. The silver white snake pupils are noble and majestic, with a slight glance, everything in sight is surrendered to it. Flood Immortal Mode. Turning on this mode will greatly enhance your strength, speed, and ninjutsu strength. Li Jexuan lightly clenched his fist, the powerful force pulled the airflow between his palms into a ball, and then it exploded. This power is far beyond the wounded door of the 8-door Dunjia. Thinking of this, Li Jexuan's heart moved. The immortal mode already has such a powerful power, if you add the 8 Dunjia. Danzo, I will double the humiliation you gave me that day. Li Jexuan gritted his teeth, wishing he could return to the 10 now. However, the mark of the curse seal has not been left, and it is not time to leave. Why haven't you left yet? Immortal White Snake stared at Li Jexuan with some fear. You fool, you almost sucked me dry. I want to leave something behind. With that said, Li Jexuan took out the secret technique of the curse seal. I need the power of Ryuji Cave. Li Jexuan not only wanted to absorb the natural energy of the White Snake Immortal himself, but also use the curse seal to attract the natural energy to the person who left the curse seal. You fool, you are really greedy. Immortal White Snake shook his head in disgust. According to the rules, I only have the obligation to give you strength, and this kind of thing is not within the scope of my obligation. Oh, are you sure? Li Jexuan raised his eyebrows with a malicious smile on his face. Although Li Jexuan looked at it a little bit hairy, but the White Snake Fairy said, he is also a fairy anyway, it has dignity. I'm sure. Well, I feel like I haven't fully mastered the immortal mode, give me some more. Li Jexuan smiled slightly. Immortal White Snake knelt down on the spot. It has lived for so long in its life, and it has never seen such a monster as Li Jexuan. Among the immortal powers of the 3 holy places, Ryuji Cave is the most insane and dangerous. Even if the immortal powers of the other 2 families fail to cultivate, there is basically no danger. But Ryuji Cave is different. A cold-blooded snake doesn't have so much time to waste, it just takes one bite when it's life or death, and directly pours the power of the immortal into it roughly, it's your ability to live, and it's not a waste if you die. Immortal White Snake ate it in one bite. It's not that powerful guys have never appeared in Ryuji Cave, but those guys have never sucked up the White Snake Immortal like Li Jexuan. The most terrifying thing is that he seems to be enjoying it. Okay, I admit defeat. The White Snake Immortal finally relented, but it put forward a condition. In the depths of Ryuji Cave, there is a big snake called Shinya. As long as you bring me his reverse scale, I will let you leave a curse mark. Shinya, this big snake is not easy to deal with. While its body is as huge as 10,000 snakes, it can also spit out venom that makes people petrified. However, just right, Li Jexuan lightly clenched his fist. With his current strength, he just needs a touchstone. I just don't know if this Shinya is enough. Li Jexuan curled his lips in disdain, turned and walked out of the temple in Ryuji Cave. As soon as he walked out of the temple, Li Jexuan went straight to the depths of Ryuji Cave, and within a few steps, a huge and deep tunnel stood in front of him. The tunnel with dozens of people's height opened its mouth wantonly, the cold and smelly wind kept gushing out of the tunnel, and the sound of shinksan was heard from time to time. The most violent big snakes in the entire Ryuji Cave live in the depths of this tunnel, and the dangerous atmosphere permeates the air all the time. Interesting. Li Jexuan's eyes widened, and a strange sense of excitement kept pouring out. This is the first time for him to be so excited. Tap. Turning on the Jiaoshan mode, Li Jexuan walked proudly in the middle of the entire tunnel. The silver-white snake pupils pierced the darkness, and everything had nowhere to hide. Hiss. A terrifying giant snake with a length of 30 meters stood upright. Its ferocious snake head opened its mouth and rushed towards Li Jexuan fiercely. In front of this giant snake, Li Jexuan's tiny figure was as tiny as an ant, but Li Jexuan only raised his arm slightly and punched lightly. Oh! When Li Jexuan's fist collided with the giant snake's head, at that moment, the giant snake's body suddenly froze, and two huge eyeballs rolled up unnaturally in their eye sockets. Puff! Suddenly, the entire body of the giant snake spurted bright red blood columns like a leaky bag. The black scales with the size of a human head burst open abruptly, the flesh and blood were torn apart, and the whole snake fell powerlessly to the ground. In just a few seconds, this terrifying big snake was dead and couldn't die anymore. However, from beginning to end, Li Jexuan only threw one punch. Killed the big snake with just one punch. Li Jexuan lightly clenched his fist. He could feel the power surging in his body, which was far from the limit of Jiao Shanren mode. This tunnel is very long, and there are all kinds of big snakes that rush out to attack Li Jexuan, ranging from tens of meters to nearly 100 meters, but none of them can block Li Jexuan's punch. It's really annoying. Angrily, Li Jexuan punched the red stone wall next to him fiercely. Is there no one who can hit better? Wait, this feeling. Li Jexuan turned his head in doubt, only to realize that instead of a stone wall, there was a giant red snake entrenched here. The exaggerated body of the giant red snake looked like a wall, and Li Jexuan's punch just happened to shatter several of his snake scales. Ah, you human being, you beat me to the pain of Master Shinya. The red giant snake raised its head violently, and the hideous scar on its right eye made it lose one eye. Shinya. Li Jexuan grinned involuntarily. It turns out that this is Shinya. It's really amazing. Boy, are you looking down on me leisurely? Shinya roared angrily, flicking his tail fiercely towards Li Jexuan. In an instant, Li Jexuan only felt a red tsunami rushing towards him. The air is slightly deformed in this terrifying convulsion. This speed, and this strength, can I stop it? Li Jexuan didn't have the slightest fear. His eyes widened in excitement, and he raised his fist to meet him fiercely. Bang! The fists and tails intersected, triggering a terrifying ring-shaped air wave. Evenly matched forces collide in the air, but in the end, with a sound of puff, Li Jexuan spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to his knees. Although it is reluctant to follow this end, it is still too reluctant after all. Hey, boy, you are no match for me after all. Although Shinya said disdainfully, there was still a bit of fear hidden in that huge one-eyed. This human being is so terrifying, he actually grabbed my tail with his body. But at this moment, a strange voice sounded slowly. Finally, something interesting. The bright red blood and white teeth mixed together. Li Jexuan grinned wildly. If the opponent in the battle is too weak, it would be too boring. 8-gate Dunjia formation, open the gate. With chakra flowing through his brain, Li Jexuan quietly felt the improvement brought about by opening the door with 100% body use, and his power in Jiao Shanren mode has reached its peak. Li Jexuan smiled grimly and waved slightly at Shinya. Come again. Chapter 51. What a brat who doesn't know how to live or die. Shinya can't remember clearly. How many years haven't he been so angry like today? Die to me, human. The huge snake tail drew over at a more ferocious speed, and Li Jexuan also punched fiercely, colliding again with each punch and tail. Oh, powerful forces collided in the air, even stirring up the dust in the tunnel. When the dust settled, the corners of Li Jexuan's mouth overflowed with blood again, but this time, he stood up firmly. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Li Jexuan smiled and hooked his fingers towards Shinya. You guy. Shinya raised his tail furiously. This time he won't hold back anything, he must beat this nasty boy to death. 8-gate Dunjia formation, Hue gate open. It was another earth-shattering collision, but this time, Li Jexuan didn't even have the blood on the corner of his mouth, and he firmly blocked Shinya's tail. Kid. Shinya was already a little panicked. He had never encountered such a situation before. Even in battle with other giant snakes, no one has ever blocked his tail head-on. Is that all you need? Li Jexuan couldn't help grinning lightly. You're really weak, Shinya. I'm going to shoot you into meat sauce. Shinya, who became angry from embarrassment, raised his tail high and yanked it down fiercely. The largest tail was accelerated by gravity, far exceeding its previous strength. 8 doors Dunjia formation, open the door of life. When the huge snake tail fell, Shinya shook his head triumphantly. Ha ha ha, I must have crushed this kid into a meat paste, challenge Master Shinya to my fate. Hey, what happened to my tail? Suddenly, Shinya's tail suddenly lifted up. When he lowered his head, he realized that Li Jexuan was raising Shinya's tail with a smile. You boy. Just as Shinya was about to get angry, Li Jexuan smiled slightly. 8 gates Dunjia formation, open the door of injury. Suddenly, Shinya felt a huge force coming from his tail, and then he flew up uncontrollably. Li Jexuan tightly grasped Shinya's tail, and swung the hundreds-meter-long giant snake in the air like a towel. Wow wow wow. The huge Shinya felt like he was about to spit out the gall, which was really too painful. As the saying goes, hitting a snake to hit 7 inches, grabbing a snake and swishing its tail. Grab the tail of the snake, just swing it lightly, no matter what poisonous snake he is, he will be caught without a fight. But Shinya never thought in his life that a big snake of his size would be picked up by someone one day. I was wrong, stop swinging. Shinya repeatedly begged for mercy, although he was rebellious, but Li Jexuan defeated him with such crushing strength. If he is still stubborn, then he is not rebellious, but a fool. Oh, Li Jexuan put Shinya down with a smile. But as soon as Shinya landed, he opened his mouth wide and spat out a mouthful of venom. Li Jexuan easily dodged, watching the venom turn a big tree into a stone sculpture. This petrified venom is indeed very terrifying, but it is a pity. Whether it is the fairy mode or the Baman Dunjia, it will improve your own state in an all-round way. That means, Li Jexuan grabbed Shinya's tail fiercely, and said with a smirk, your young master is not only powerful, but my speed is also very fast. The big windmill is turning around. The red windmill was spinning crazily, and Shinya regretted it. Grandpa, I was wrong. After 10 minutes, Shinya was completely convinced. He coiled up in a wrong circle and kowtowed to Li Jexuan. I shouldn't provoke you, let alone deceive you. That's right, I know quite well. Li Jexuan patted Shinya's tail. In the future, you must realize who you can touch and who you can't touch. What? Shinya's eyes widened in doubt. There are very few people here in Ryuji Cave. Except for you, I haven't seen a human being for many years. Hearing this, Li Jexuan nodded with a smile. From then on, you will often see humans. What? Li Jexuan took out the psychic contract with a smile, and waved. Come and sign. What is this? Don't worry, it's okay. Li Jexuan laughed like a strange uncle who kidnapped little Lolita. Just sign, it won't hurt. Shinya instinctively sensed something was wrong, and backed away again and again. Can I not sign? Can't. Li Jexuan has already grabbed Shinya's tail. If he dares to say no again, Li Jexuan will start playing the big windmill. In desperation, Shinya finally gave in under Li Jexuan's lust. Standing in front of the blood contract psychic book, Shinya's snake face was full of suspicion. Master Jexuan, I don't study much, so don't lie to me. Li Jexuan laughed loudly. Don't worry, as long as you follow me, you will eat delicious food, drink spicy food, and enjoy all the glory and wealth in the future, no problem. Then I'll press it. I'm sure you won't suffer. With Li Jexuan's reassurance, Shinya bit his own tail and printed his own blood on it. A faint fluorescent light flashed. The blood contract psychic has been completed. Very good. Li Jexuan smiled like a fox stealing a chicken, and stretched out his hand to tear off the reverse scale on Shinya's chin. Come on, come with me to see the white snake immortal, so as not to save that old guy from changing his mind temporarily. If you want other things from you, it's also convenient. Quote. What about enjoying all the glory and wealth? Shinya looked dazed, and just after completing the contract, he tore away my nilin. It really is heartless to pull up and hang up, and you will scold me dirty when you put on your pants. Okay. Lee Jexuan turned his head. I mean, I am willing to give everything for Lord Jexuan. After Shinya was pulled out, his temper became more obedient. Sitting on top of Shinya's head, Lee Jexuan swaggered out of the tunnel, and no big snake dared to come up to provoke him, because any big snake that dares to provoke Shinya has been turned into a stone sculpture. Is that Shinya? Tien Shin Shenji's snake eyes turned into bull's eyes. That guy actually let humans sit on his head. Shichu Shenji held her forehead and was dizzy. I must have not slept for a long time, and I have hallucinations. I should go to sleep. It wasn't until Lee Jexuan rode Shinyading to open the temple in Longdi Cave that they realized that all this was not an illusion. That human child actually subdued the most ferocious snake in Longdi Cave, Shinya. This. Even Immortal White Snake was so shocked that he couldn't speak. This is too exaggerated. Shinya was actually being ridden on him. This is Shinya's reverse scale. Lee Jexuan grinned with a smile. Now, it's time for me to leave the curse mark. Lee Jexuan secretly gritted his teeth. If this old guy says no, he will tear down Longdi Cave. It is good. Immortal White Snake could no longer find a way to embarrass Lee Jexuan, and more importantly, she saw the murderous look in Lee Jexuan's eyes. Finally home. Lee Jexuan slowly opened his eyes. The Immortal White Snake had sent him out of Longdi Cave and back to the border of the Land of Fire. But when Lee Jexuan opened the tent, he couldn't find Hinata Masuzu and them. Where did the people go? Lee Jexuan frowned suspiciously, but at this moment, a familiar roar suddenly came from not far away. 8 doors Dunjia, Jingmun open. Matt violently ascended to the sky. The blue chakra flames were blazing. He waved his fists frantically, rubbed and burned with the air, and punched out a terrifying flame fist. Towards the peacock. Lee Jexuan's eyes widened fiercely. What's going on? Matwei has reached the point where the Jingmun needs to be opened. Flood immortal mode. Lee Jexuan's whole body turned into the Jiaoshan mode, and rushed towards Mitwei. At this time, Mitwei and Uchiha Yuya are facing the most serious crisis in history. They were surrounded by a Jonin and more than a dozen Chunin. What's going on? Hinata Masuzu barely resisted the ninjutsu released by the surrounding Chunin, who Ishin almost didn't stop. His head was almost dizzy. Even so, he was still covered in scars. Uchiha Yuya on the other side was even more miserable, because there was no good defense method, and the scariest wound almost didn't cut him in two. Although Mitwei suddenly showed his supernatural power, as a junior ninja, he suppressed the opposite Junin and beat him, but any fool can see that this situation can't last long. Hey, you guys, didn't you hear that there were 5 of them? Is there one more? Sand Yin's Chunin gritted his teeth and said, could it be that they left you and ran away? Stop joking, how could the captain abandon us? As Lee Jexuan's #1 fan, Hinata Masuzu retorted subconsciously, it's just that you stinky fish and rotten shrimps are not worth alarming the captain. Hearing this, Doi Junian smiled and nodded. It would be best if this is the case, then I can avenge my brother. This Doi Junian is the brother of Lee Jexuan and the others who killed Doi Fengda for the first time, and he is also the captain of the ninja team. Hearing this, Yamada Suzumi in the corner couldn't help but frown. Why are these guys so familiar with their team? Not only did they know they were a team of 5, but they seemed to know what they did. However, now is not the time to study this. Ola ora ora. Mitwei crazily suppressed the Jonin on the opposite side, but after all, it was only Jingmun, and it was still too difficult to kill a Jonin directly with Chao Peacock. Although the Baman Dunjia is strong, it is not invincible. Yamada Tsukino was a little tangled. He didn't know whether he should make a move. With his current physical condition, he may only be able to take one shot. But this time, he wanted to make good use of it. However, the power of Baman Dunjia is gradually fading. Every time Matwei punches, he feels weaker and more powerless. Matwei could feel that the Jonin on the opposite side was lifting his head from the suppression of Peacock, and he was about to be exhausted. Xiao Jexuan, I'm sorry, I may not be able to hold on anymore. When the last strength passed, Matwei slowly let go of his fist. Yamada Suhiro shook his head helplessly. Maybe, he had no choice, he couldn't watch Konoha's ninja die in front of him, and remain indifferent. But just when Yamada Suhiro wanted to make a move. Hey, Uncle Matt, didn't you guys say that only persistence is the real cultivation? Flood Immortal Lee Jexuan, debut. With fluttering silver hair, Lee Jexuan in silver armor stretched out his hand in the air to catch Matwei, who was slowly falling. It's a pity that this picture is not beautiful at all. Catching an uncle in tights, what beauty can there be, but a little disgusting. Captain, Lee Jexuan, Little Jexuan. Everyone called Lee Jexuan's name in unison, which shocked Lee Jexuan. Sorry, I'm late. Putting down Matwei, Lee Jexuan smiled and shook his head. Uncle mate, get a good sleep, and leave the rest to me. You are the captain. Doi Junian grinned grimly and sealed his seal. You fool, there is a way to heaven. If you don't go, there is no way to enter hell. Just go to hell and be buried with my brother. Too done, too long bomb. The ferocious earth dragon spewed out huge stone bombs, which was astonishingly powerful. I really don't know whether to live or die. Lee Jexuan shook his head lightly, and grinned grinningly. 8 doors of Dunjia, open, rest, life, 3 doors open. In an instant, Lee Jexuan opened 3 doors in succession. The surging power was surging. Facing the earth dragon bullet, Lee Jexuan rushed towards the stone bullet without dodging or evading. One punch, crushing stone bullets. Another punch smashed the stone dragon, and the last punch killed Tufei Junian into scum. It's you who should go to hell, idiot. Lee Jexuan wiped off the bright red blood on his hand, and rushed towards the other Chunin with a sneer. This time, he wanted to kill him. Soil wall. One punch to smash, another punch to kill. Water prison technique. One punch directly kills people in water prisons together. In just over 10 seconds, Lee Jexuan instantly killed 5 Chunin. This is the power of taijutsu ninjas. If you practice to the extreme, you can kill your opponent with a single punch. Strange, monster. The Chunin of Sand Hidden backed away in horror. You actually smashed a ninjutsu with your body, such a monster. Don't panic, don't despair. Sha Yin had no choice but to stand up, although he didn't want to face Lee Jexuan so quickly, but if he lost his military spirit, he would not be able to survive. This guy can only use taijutsu. As long as he delays for a while, he will also run out of energy. Sand Yin's Junin had just defeated Matwei, and he thought he had figured out Lee Jexuan. Although I want to tell you, I won't be tired after playing for a whole day. Lee Jexuan gently lowered his hands, however, let you completely despair. Shen Mao Cho. The 3 seals are activated, and the thunder is bred in the palms. It's just that Lei Qi's original light blue thunder has turned into a dazzling silver color under the influence of Zhao Shanren mode. The terrifying silver thunder danced and twisted, merging into a complete thunder blade. Comprehend the S-level ninjutsu Zhao Leiki. With the blessing of the fairy mode, Lee Jexuan completed a complete thunder cut for the first time, and it is more powerful than the original Rachel. Lee Jexuan gently pushed thunder, and his whole body turned into a dazzling light, which penetrated nearly 1,000 meters in an instant. It wasn't until everything was over that everyone's vision returned to normal. A hole the size of a bowl appeared in Sagakushi Jaminen's chest, and in this hole, a silver thunder raged, finally disintegrating Sagakushi Jaminen's entire body. What ninjutsu is this? Everyone present was speechless. They had never seen a ninjutsu with such an exaggerated effect. Whether it was power, speed, or lethality, it was far beyond imagination. Now, start to despair. Lee Jexuan made seals with both hands, and slapped the ground fiercely, and the terrifying giant snake Shinya appeared on the stage. Master, what are your orders? Lee Jexuan grinned coldly. Kill them all. The battle has lost its suspense, and the rest is just slaughter. When all is said and done, who can tell me that I am not dreaming? Uchiha Yuya looked around in a daze. Plasma and pieces of meat were piled up on the ground, and even half of the complete corpse could not be found. Hinata Masuzu decisively gave him a kick. Ah, it hurts so much, idiot Yizu, why are you kicking me? Uchiha Yuya jumped endlessly. Now you know, this is not a dream. Hinata Masuzu shrugged with a smile, pulled Uchiha Yuya to sit on the ground, quietly looking into the distance. As the sun sets, there is a small figure standing on top of the giant red snake, like a legend. That is their captain, Lee Jexuan. Their eyes are like butterflies chasing light, love, worship, and fanaticism. Lee Jexuan, the light of Konoha. Yamada Tsukino nodded slightly. I'm looking at you. Standing on top of Shinya's head, Lee Jexuan squeezed the neck of the last Chunin. Tell me, who betrayed us? Yes, it's a guy named Danzo. The Chunin had already been terrified by Lee Jexuan's crazy slaughter, and told all the information like beans poured out of a bamboo tube. It's Danzo again. Lee Jexuan casually threw the Chunin into Shinya's mouth, and sneered, I didn't look for you, but you came to me. Very good, just to settle the old and new accounts together. But before that, we have to wait for Midway to recover. Team leader. Seeing that the battle was over, Hinata Masuzu and Uchiha Yuya rushed forward, hugging Lee Jexuan's thigh from left to right. Captain, you are too fierce. Captain, even Sa Yin's Junin is no match for you, it's too powerful. Uchiha Yuya completely let go of his infinite arrogance, and hugged Lee Jexuan's thigh excitedly. There is also that psychic beast, which is big and handsome, so handsome. How did you contract it? Uchiha Yuya was already incoherent with excitement. It's just defeating a Jonin. It seems too crazy to say that it's trivial, so let's take it medium. Lee Jexuan smiled flatly. As for how to conquer Shinya, all you need to do is squeeze your fists and hit his head hard. Quote. Yamada Suhiro and Hinata Masashizu were a little speechless. This is only a day of retreat, and defeating Jonin is only a mediocre meaning. If you stay in seclusion for a few more days, wouldn't you have leveled the ninja world? Moreover, retreating in a tent, why can such a terrifying psychic beast be contracted? Could it be that Shinya is not a snake, but an earthworm? At this time, in the camp of the Konoha allied forces, Danzo sat on the low tatami mat, raised his glass and drank with great interest. Think about it, everything should be over now. Danzo, what's over? Hiruzuru Sarutobi opened the tent and walked in, smiling wryly and shaking his head. If you don't hand over the tailed beast, this war is far from over. Hehe, I'm just talking about a nasty brat. Danzo was not very willing to talk to Sarutobi Hiruzen. If Lee Jexuan is simply annoying, then Sarutobi Hiruzen is completely Danzo's heart disease. Among Senju Tobima's disciples, only he and Sarutobi Hiruzen are qualified to inherit the position of Hokage, but Senju Tobima obviously likes Sarutobi more. One after another, Danzo gritted his teeth coldly. However, I will get rid of you all. For the position of Hokage, Danzo will not hesitate to borrow any power. Why don't we just keep going and reveal Sarutobi Hiruzen's defensive area to Sand Shinobi? Danzo was suffocating in his head, when suddenly there was a panicky noise outside the tent. The Sand Ninja is attacking aggressively. Hiruzuru Sarutobi hurried out of the tent, his eyes widened in surprise. How is it possible? Why did Sand Shinobu suddenly make such a decision? Tatata. The sound of dense footsteps joined together, the light yellow dust surged, and the Sand Ninja rushed towards the border of the Konoha coalition army like a tide. What happened? Sand Shinobi is so crazy. Over the past few days, although small frictions have continued, there are very few real big battles. Hiruzuru Sarutobi clenched his fists in doubt. In this battle, Konoha might suffer heavy casualties again. Danzo instinctively sensed that something was wrong, but after thinking about it, he couldn't figure out what went wrong. At this moment, the ninja in charge of scouting suddenly rushed out, his eyes widened in surprise. The Sand Ninja said that someone from Konoha provided them with false information, which caused them to lose a Jonin and dozens of Chunin. Provide false information. Danzo muttered unconsciously. One Jonin, dozens of Chunin. Could it be? No, it's impossible. Danzo quickly dispelled the terrible conjecture in his heart. How could that kid Lee Jexuan survive in this situation, let alone kill those Sand Ninjas? Impossible. Poor Danzo, his face turned pale with fright. Sensing Danzo's strangeness, Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't help raising his eyebrows. What? Danzo, what do you know? No, I don't know anything. Danzo waved his hands again and again. He really hoped he had guessed wrong, otherwise he's in big trouble. Konoha, Zone B4. Night falls. After placing Midway and the seriously injured Hinata Masashizu and Uchiha Yuya in the tent, Lee Jexuan turned and walked out of the tent, just about to go to Danzo to settle the account. Yamada Suhiro stopped in front of him. I'm sorry, I didn't take part in the battle. Yamada Haruhiro was a little guilty. As Hokage, he didn't stand up immediately, which made him very ashamed. It's okay, you are a medical ninja, and not participating in the battle is the right choice. Lee Jexuan obviously misunderstood the meaning of Yamada Junhiro, but he is not in the mood to argue with Yamada Junhiro. He just wants to rush to the coalition camp immediately, pull the Danzang out, stab him in the throat with a grass-shaving sword, get out from the chrysanthemum, sprinkle some cumin on the fire. But at this moment, a cold voice suddenly came from under the cold moonlight. It's really a friendly team, but you shouldn't deceive us sand ninjas with false information. Kazecage's hat slowly rose from the edge of the desert, and a handsome man in a black tights and a white windbreaker slowly stepped out. A generation of wind and shadow, Lie Do. Is this sand ninja attack, or pure revenge? Lee Jexuan involuntarily narrowed his eyes, although Kazekage didn't show much in anime. The existence that can end the chaos of a country and create a ninja world will never be a mediocre person. But, false information. Lee Jexuan curled his lips in disdain. Lee Jexuan, disdain to do such a thing, it's just that some idiot miscalculated my strength. Hearing this, Lie Do pondered for a long time, and shook his head helplessly. But, the fact that you killed dozens of our sand ninja. From the moment Lie Do knew about Lee Jexuan, this battle was inevitable. He couldn't let Lee Jexuan continue to grow. As for why he came here, it was just an excuse. Cut, just hit if you want, how can there be so much nonsense? Lee Jexuan curled his lips in disdain, turned his head and whispered to Yamada Junhiro, take Uncle Matway and the others. In a real fight, Lee Jexuan might be able to escape. Matway and the other three cripples can't escape now. I get it, I'll take care of them. Yamada Suzuru nodded affirmatively. He knew it was the right choice. With the strength Lee Jexuan showed just now, even if he can't win, he can escape. Matway, who just woke up, looked at Lee Jexuan resentfully, as if saying, my youth is still burning, I won't leave. Uncle Matt, don't look at me like that. Lee Jexuan shrugged helplessly. Since you saved my life at that time, then I must ensure your safety. Letting Yamada Suhiro take Matway and the others away, Ritu didn't stop him. As funnying, he doesn't need to use these low-handed methods to deal with a 2-year-old child. You are indeed a genius. When Yamada Junzun walked away, Lie Do slightly shook his head with some regret. It's a pity that you were born in Konoha, and the Kingdom of Wind cannot tolerate the appearance of another thousand-handed pillar. Thousand-hand Hashirama, thank you for your praise, but... Lee Jexuan grinned fiercely, laughing wildly, I'm not going to stop here. Although Chinshujujian is strong, how exciting is the future? Obito of the Six Paths, Kai Hachiman, Madara of the Six Paths, Naruto of the Six Paths, Sasuke Samsara, Kagaya Haim. How could he be absent from such a magnificent future? Flood Immortal Mode, on. 8 gates Dunjia formation, open and close, and open 5 gates together. The dark green chakra steam is surging, and the silver-armored dragons are like gods. What a powerful chakra! The first Kazekage was full of admiration. It's a pity that you can't escape the cage of sand after all. Escape. Lee Jexuan grinned coldly. In this state, even if Lu Dao Madara came in person, he would not flee without a fight. A little wind shadow. Who will kill the deer is unknown. The night wind howled, the wind and sand raged. The villagers living on the border of the land of fire have long been accustomed to the taste of the yellow sand. It's just that today's wind and sand, inexplicably smelled a little more bloody. We can't stop it. Konoha's ninjas have never seen such a crazy sand ninja. They rushed forward to attack Konoha's position like crazy. If it wasn't for Lie Do's absence, they would have been defeated long ago. In Konoha's big camp, Sensho Fama sat around with Sarutobi Hiruzen and Danzo who were covered in blood. Why, Lie Do never showed up. Throughout the entire battle, Sand Ninja's Kazekage did not appear. Qian Shou-Fei raised his eyebrows suspiciously. Even though he held his ground because of this, he still had a bad premonition. Sand Shinobi seems to be secretly brewing some conspiracy. Holding the golden cudgel, Hiruzuru Sarutobi said abruptly, I don't know why. I always feel that this matter may have something to do with Lee Jexuan. Lee Jexuan. Shinsho Feijian couldn't help raising his eyebrows. Could it be that the identity of the eldest brother was exposed? But this is impossible. With the transformation technique of Big Brother, if he is not willing, even I can't see through it. Hee. I think Lido is busy with other things. Danzo smiled unnaturally. No matter what, he didn't want to mention Lee Jexuan in front of Tokema. However, at this moment, an Anbu suddenly rushed in. Master Tobima, Yamada Haruhiro from the B4 defense zone has something important to report. Hearing this, Danzo turned pale with shock. These fools really didn't die. No, I can't let them see Master Tokema. Otherwise, I'm doomed. Those guys got cold feet again. Danzo jumped up. His eyes widened and he yelled angrily, this time we won't let them pass the level easily. While talking, Danzo wanted to get out of the tent and kill Yamada Suhiro secretly. Danzo, sit down. Danzo was slightly shocked by the icy voice from the Thousand Hands, bring Yamada Needle in. Please. As soon as Yamada Tsukino walked in, Danzo jumped up excitedly, stretched out his hand and grabbed Yamada Tsukino. You fool, you dare to come here after running away, I will kill you today. But before he could make a move, Shinsho Phagian grabbed Danzo's hand and said coldly, Danzo, Sarutobi, you can go out now. Hearing this, Danzo immediately turned around and walked out of the tent like a frost-beaten eggplant. Even if he has the courage of the sky, he doesn't dare to disobey the order of the second generation. But as soon as he walked out of the camp, Danzo gritted his teeth. It's really a bunch of useless sand ninjas, and they couldn't kill Lee Jexuan like this. He can no longer stay here anymore, and when things are revealed, let alone the position of Hokage, he will almost certainly die. He is running away, but he just escaped like this, he is really not reconciled. That brat. Danzo gritted his teeth and rushed in a familiar direction. 5 minutes later, Sensho Phagian rushed out of the tent with a cold face, and issued an unbelievable order to the Anbu, catch that Danzo. Jealous of the virtuous, colluding with other villages, killing geniuses, Phagian, is this the disciple you chose? The words of the first generation kept echoing in the ears of Thousand Hands, like loud slaps, slapping his face non-stop. Lee Jexuan, whom he has always looked down upon, relied on his ingenuity to kill dozens of Chunin in the enemy, and rescued his teammates from the hands of dozens of Chunin by virtue of his strength. He even chose to face Funying alone and let his injured teammates escape. In comparison, his disciple Danzo is a stinky pile of shit, and my own master is that stupid dog who shits. Sarutobi, follow me to Area B4. Shinsho Phagian used Flying Thunder God to move quickly. I hope there is still time. However, the strength gap between the two sides in the battle is too great. One side is the first Kazekage who dominated the ninja world, a powerful existence that is not inferior even among the 5 cages. On the other side is a young Chunin who is only 2 years old and has just walked out of ninja school. Although Shinsho did not give up, Lee Jexuan had already been sentenced to death in his heart. Lee Jexuan is dead. Konoha line of defense, Area B4. The moonlight was like blood, and Sensho Phagian and Sarutobi Hiruzen finally arrived here. What surprised Shinsho Phagian was that Lee Jexuan was not dead yet, and was even still fighting. Ha. Lee Jexuan was lying in the huge bunker, panting with difficulty, his legs were broken, his chest collapsed in, and even the dragon horns on his head were broken. Such serious injuries are no longer recoverable by energy potions. The reason why he is still alive now is all because of the energy potion to hang his life. However, the state of the first generation of Kazekage is not good. There are dozens of sword wounds all over his body, large and small, all of which are traces left by the grass pheasant sword. Jingmun turned to Peacock and burned him into a hairless chicken. As for the small penetrating wound on the chest, it was the mark left by Lakey. Pity. Lee Jexuan shook his head secretly. As long as he was quicker in that blow of Zhao Lakey, he would have succeeded, but this is what made Funying condense the sand and resist most of Zhao Lakey's power. It's really unexpected that I will be forced to such a degree by a 2-year-old child one day. Lido violently coughed out a mouthful of blood, and said with a smirk, however, it's time to end all of this. Earth Dungeon Kangsha God Needle. Lido raised his hands high, and the light blue chakra flowed between his palms. The entire desert trembled violently, every grain of sand was suspended strangely, squeezed into Lido's hand, and finally condensed into a huge sand pillar several hundred meters high, suspended in the sky. If you get hit by this thing, even steel will turn into iron skin. You are only 2 years old, you are already proud enough to push me to this point. Li Do manipulated the sand pillar to hover in front of Li Jexuan, and nodded with a sneer, I will use my strongest ninjutsu to bury you. It's too late. Even Chinsho Phaejian, who is known as the speed of the gods, couldn't save Li Jexuan from Li Do, who was thousands of meters away. Go to hell. Li Do violently waved his arm, and the huge sand pillar in the sky smashed down on Li Jexuan like a punishment from God. Dead. Thousand Hands shook his head helplessly. In the end, is it still a step too late? However, Li Jexuan suddenly laughed out loud. Why are you laughing? Li Do was terrified, but the Kwangsha God Needle was running, even he couldn't force it to stop. The 8-door Dunjia is powerful because it has 8 doors. And I have only opened 6 doors so far. Li Jexuan grinned grinningly. Shock the door, open. The reason why Baman Dunjia is known as the taijutsu that directly points to the Tao is because of its aura of daring to pull the emperor off the horse. Kai Huang's battle against Lu Daoban also relied on the gangster spirit of Baman Dunjia. Li Jexuan stretched out his only 2 arms that could move, gritted his teeth and roared, Day Tiger. The white air bomb condensed in Li Jexuan's hands, and the roaring silver-white tiger rushed out from Li Jexuan's palms, enveloping Li Do, who could not move. The tiger roared. Even though Li Do tried his best to deflect his body, his whole body was still swallowed by the tiger, leaving only an unwilling head rolling to the ground. The first Kazekage is dead. Died at the hands of Li Jexuan, a 2-year-old child. Even if he witnessed it with his own eyes, Chinsho Phaejian couldn't believe it was true. That is the shadow of the 5 great ninja villages. To be killed by a 2-year-old child. But if Li Jexuan could hear the voice of Chinshobe, he would definitely dismiss it. As we all know, 5 cages are equal to Jonin. In some cases, not even a Jonin. For example, the 3rd Kazekage who was killed by the Red Sand Scorpion, and the 4th Kazekage who was killed by Orochimaru. Except for a few powerful guys, Wukage is an experience pack. Even Konoha's 3 generations of Hokage have been brushed up by his disciple Orochimaru, which shows how weak the cage level strength of the 5 major countries is. But even so, the fact that Li Jexuan killed Li Do is still amazing. This means that Li Jexuan, who is only 2 years old, already possesses movie-level strength. What kind of monster is this? On this day, Sensho Fama and Sarutobi Hiruzen witnessed the birth of a monster. After pouring a few bottles of energy medicine, Li Jexuan barely crawled out of the pit. Picking up Feng Ying's head, Li Jexuan grinned lightly, power is really intoxicating. However, this shocking door is really terrible. Li Jexuan just smiled so badly that his whole body suffered severe nerve pain, which is nothing more than 1,000 cuts in ancient times. However, the generous reward for killing Feng Ying finally made Li Jexuan feel a little more psychologically balanced. Shadow-level treasure chest. The yellow treasure chest is covered with a bronzing shell, and there is a sparkling wind character in the center of the chest. It was a good thing at first glance. Li Jexuan couldn't help laughing again, and the next second, ouch, it hurts. In the desolate desert, a stubborn young man just defeated a powerful enemy, and smiled proudly at the moon. What kind of beautiful picture is this? Brother, is this the future you talked about? Standing there in a daze among 1,000 hands, he seemed to understand something. However, at this moment, a black shadow suddenly appeared under the moonlight. Wind done, the great vacuum jade. Danzo has been hiding in the sand dunes next to him. Seeing that Li Jexuan had defeated Li Do, he rushed out, wanting to give Li Jexuan a fatal blow. The villain, Chinsho Phaejian, was almost smoking with anger. That is a 2-year-old cage-level powerhouse, you are trying to cut off Konoha's future. Unknowingly, Chinsho Phaejian has raised Li Jexuan's status a lot. But how can Danzo care about these? From the moment Yamada Suhiro walked into the camp, he made up his mind to betray Konoha. It's just that he is not reconciled. If I don't kill this guy, how can I leave willingly? Danzo roared and spewed out a terrifying air cannon. This vacuum jade is a very powerful ninjutsu even in B-level ninjutsu. Tuanzo. Li Jexuan's eyes widened sharply. I have to say that Danzang is indeed a disciple taught by the 2nd generation, and he is very tricky in terms of timing and location of the sneak attack. Danzo, are you in such a hurry to reincarnate? Li Jexuan gritted his teeth helplessly. The severe pain caused by the shock made him unable to perform any ninjutsu. But if he wanted to suppress the severe pain caused by opening the shocking door, he had to open the shocking door again. but if this is the case, his injuries will be more severe, and he may even die after the next surprise attack. But now he can't take care of that much anymore. The formation of the 8-door dungeon opened the door. The dark blue chakra spewed out again, and Lee Jexuan defeated the air cannon of Vacuum Dayama with just a light fist, and crushed Danzo, who would stir up Konoha Fungyon in the future, into a puddle of meat. Danzo. Lee Jexuan unlocked the startled door, and fell on his back. I will never forget to cause trouble for me. In the future, I must use the reincarnation of the dirty soil to catch you, kill you hundreds of times to relieve your hatred. At the last second when his consciousness disappeared, Lee Jexuan's mind was full of flogging corpses. Where is this? Lee Jexuan slowly opened his eyes and found himself lying on a snow-white hospital bed. This place turned out to be Muya Hospital. How long has he been in a coma? Has been sent back to Konoha. At this moment, the voices of medical staff chatting could be heard beside my ears. The cute nurse with an apple face gently gathered Lee Jexuan's quilt, and exclaimed with admiration, I heard that this child killed the hostile Kazekage. The second generation of adults sent him back with flying thunder god all the way. Hearing this, Lee Jexuan nodded secretly, so he should not have been in a coma for a long time. The pie-faced nurse beside her with pockmarked face tried to cover her big mouth of 40 yards with her trotter-like hand. Hey, but he seems to have become a cripple, all the nerves in his body are broken. Okay. Hearing this, Lee Jexuan couldn't care less about peeking at the beautiful female nurse anymore, and quickly asked, System. I'm disabled. Lee Jexuan. Shadow level ninja disabled. The system still cherishes words like gold. However, he was actually disabled. Lee Jexuan grinned in pain. He didn't expect that he would end up like this just after killing Fungyon, but unexpectedly, Lee Jexuan didn't feel too nervous. Before he knew it, Lee Jexuan already had the mentality of a strong man. No matter what kind of situation he faced, he had the confidence to overcome it. But at this moment, there was a sound outside the ward door. Chinsho Feijian walked in with a bald middle-aged medical ninja, and Lee Jexuan subconsciously closed his eyes. Dean, how is it? Can he still wake up? Looking at Lee Jexuan who was covered in bandages, Chinsho felt a little guilty. Lee Jexuan suffered such a serious injury, in the final analysis, it has nothing to do with him as Hokage. The hairless dean pondered for a while, then sighed, this child's nerves have been broken because of his abuse of forbidden techniques. With the current level of medical treatment, he may not be able to wake up in this lifetime. So that means, don't say it's a ninja, he can't even take care of himself. Dean Bald Piao nodded affirmatively. Simply put, it's a vegetable. Vegetable. Feijian's face became very ugly. You know, this is a 2-year-old shadow-level powerhouse with a bright future, but now he has fallen to such a point. He is guilty. Next, the village will strongly support the development of medical ninjutsu. Chinsho gritted his teeth and ordered, if you want someone to give someone, if you want money to give money, you must cure Lee Jexuan as soon as possible, Konoha needs him. Hearing this, the bald dean secretly clenched his fist excitedly. Now, he's gone. As soon as the scientific research funding arrives, I will be greedy immediately. No, I will conduct research immediately. Dean Bald Piao's bald head was smoking. He was so excited. Lee Jexuan, what a god of wealth. Jia Xuanjin. What people didn't expect was that the little Tsunade rushed over from behind Tomona. She no longer cared about the identity of Princess Konoha, and threw herself into Lee Jexuan's arms, crying loudly, why did you lie to me? We promised to wait for you to come back, we will be together forever. Together forever. For a 2-year-old, this seems premature. Subconsciously, the veins on Chinshu's forehead twitched slightly. Lee Jexuan abducted his granddaughter so quickly. But before he could get angry, he suddenly froze. Lee Jexuan has become a vegetable. Even in the old-fashioned thousand hands, you can't get angry at a plant. Thousands of words turned into a sigh. He is sorry for Lee Jexuan. Don't cry, Tsunade-sama, he won't wake up. Dr. Bald Poop stood aside and smiled. I guarantee with my professional ethics that unless he develops a new medical ninjutsu, he will never wake up. But before he finished speaking, Lee Jexuan opened his eyes, and looked at Tsunade dotingly. You girl, when did I lie to you? Jia Xuanjin, are you awake? As soon as Lee Jexuan woke up, Tsunade burst into laughter immediately, and cute dimples appeared on his red face. Shinshufeijian was also very happy. No matter what, it was a good thing that Li Jexuan could wake up. Only the bald dean was full of resentment. He never imagined that the slap came so quickly. Didi, 86 is going up the mountain. If it is an old driver, countless indescribable contents of the book have already flashed in my mind at this time. To be honest, Li Jexuan has never felt so good. Second Hokage, you claim to be morally perfect and powerful, so you look down on me. But now, I lie down, you can only stand. Even if I hug your granddaughter who is under 3 years old in public, you can only watch helplessly. Ahem, my throat is so dry. Li Jexuan pretended to be dying of thirst. Tsunade turned his head quickly, and ordered naturally, "Second grandpa, hurry up and pour a glass of water, Jia Xuanjin is thirsty." Nani, Shinshofeijian couldn't help but widen his eyes. Did he make a mistake? Konoha Hokage himself is a majestic Konoha Hokage, with more than 1,000,000 soldiers and horses under his command. Hurry up, I haven't forgiven you yet. Tsunade clenched her fists angrily. She knew everything about Danzo's surprise attack on Li Jexuan. As the saying goes, one day as a teacher and life as a father. In this way, Shinshofeijian is equal to Danzo's father. There is an old saying that is good: the son does not teach the father's fault. I'm sorry, Shinsho sighed, and poured water honestly. Gudong. Seeing this, the bald dean swallowed involuntarily. He has never seen such a patient in his life. Let Hokage pour the water himself. Hey, that bald gourd. Li Jexuan's mouth was a spiritual crit, but President Bald Piao is a man of wealth. Master Hokage has obediently poured water, so what kind of biscuit is he? When Tsunade-sama's affection for him fades away, it won't be too late to concoct him slowly. Brother Li, what are your orders? Dean Bald Piao's old face smiled like a chrysanthemum. Hungry or thirsty? Do you want me to give you a show? I dance very well. Li Jexuan just thought briefly. An old hairless chrysanthemum twisted its waist in the ward. Haozan didn't spit it out. Li Jexuan shook his head resolutely. That's not necessary, it's just that there will be 3 patients coming from the front line in the past 2 days, just help take care of them. Quote. Matway and the others suffered serious injuries, and they must be sent back to Konoha for treatment. Any other orders? The bald dean seemed to have no limits. But often the more this kind of person can let go of his figure, the more ruthless he will turn his face after gaining power in the future. No, it's just that you look so sorry, so try not to appear in front of me in the future. Li Jexuan didn't save face for the bald dean at all. He had seen this kind of person too much in his previous life. The mobs in the system had no merits other than playing tricks on the wind and bullying the weak. It's just that I didn't expect that there was such a guy in the Naruto world. Okay, you tell me, and I will do it. The bald dean rolled out mellowly. Now, only Li Jexuan and Tsunade were left in the entire ward. I'm so glad you didn't leave me. Tsunade leaned on Li Jexuan's chest, tears in his eyes. I almost thought I would never see you again. Hearing this, Li Jexuan couldn't help being a little moved. Although Tsunade is young, her friendship is real. But the more this happened, the more uncomfortable Li Jexuan became. After thinking for a long time, he said, Tsunade, maybe you should give up on me. What? I'm in a vegetative state now, and I don't know when I'll recover. Li Jexuan gritted his teeth. Maybe a year, maybe 10 years, or it's possible that I won't recover for a lifetime. Woo. Tsunade suddenly blocked Li Jexuan's mouth with his mouth, but how could a child of a few years know how to kiss? At best, it was just a violent collision between lips. I won't allow you to say that. Tsunade raised his head blushing, and stared at Li Jexuan with firm eyes. Whether it's a year, 10 years, or a lifetime, I will wait for you. Li Jexuan was stunned for a while, then he couldn't help muttering to himself, where did you learn all this from? Television. Tsunade lowered her head shyly. Watch less of this kind of TV in the future. Li Jexuan grinned. He was 3 years old. If Tsunade in his teens did this, who would be able to resist it? He's not Lu Shahui, but he doesn't have the ability to suppress a gun with a mirror. At the same time, outside the door of the ward, the nurse was tightly blocked out of the door by 1,000 hands. Here, traffic is temporarily prohibited. Chinshu's face was dark, and the water glass in his hand was trembling. this is not to blame Lee Jexuan, he is a vegetable, a vegetable. Why is this kid not a normal person? If he is a normal person, I will kill him. Another nurse came over, and Shinsho hurriedly blocked it. It was late at night, and Lee Jexuan was the only one left in the huge ward. Although Tsunade strongly requested to stay with him, but because of the strong opposition of Senju Feijian and Lee Jexuan, after promising to see him tomorrow, Tsunade still reluctantly left. 3 years old, that's too young. Lee Jexuan clicked his tongue. Even though he was playing with a young girl, he still hugged and kissed in front of other people's grandfather. But, after all, he is a man with a bottom line. But it's good to be quiet. At least let Lee Jexuan see his harvest this time. 38 primary treasure chests, 20 intermediate treasure chests, 2 high-level treasure chests, and 1 shadow-level treasure chest. This is Lee Jexuan's richest harvest. What people didn't expect was that the guy in Danzo also provided him with a high-level treasure chest. Unfortunately, due to leaving the battlefield missions have completely disappeared. If I want to find such an opportunity to score points in the future, there will not be many. However, people should be contented and happy. There is no accident in opening 38 primary treasure chests in a row. There are a total of 38 energy potions, just like green leeks. Although there are no surprises, it can be regarded as replenishing the inventory. The battle with Fungying Lido wiped out Lee Jexuan's potion reserves. A total chakra potions were opened from the intermediate treasure chest, and there was an extra intermediate ninja tool, steel iron sledgehammer. It's a pity that it's another useless thing, so I can only save it and keep it to see if there are other uses. When it was time to open the high-level treasure chest again, Lee Jexuan couldn't help feeling a little excited. I still remember the scroll of primary experience last time. Although he didn't give rewards directly, he gave a channel to get rewards. Lee Jexuan made a lot of money last time. But it's a pity that even after opening 2 treasure chests, not a single experience scroll came out. Life potion, destiny potion. There are 2 more bottles of medicine, which are the same bottle style as the energy medicine. It's just that the potion of life is a magnificent crimson, while the potion of fate is a mysterious deep purple. Life potion. As long as you have 1 breath, I can save you. Potion of fate. Drink me, and I will change your fate. These 2 bottles of potions seem to be much higher end than energy potions and chakra potions, and even the introduction is so compelling. Finally, it is the highlight of this unboxing feast. Shadow level treasure chest, open. Completely different from ordinary boxes, the shadow level treasure box emits a dazzling light like the sun. As expected, it is indeed a shadow level treasure chest, and it emits such a dazzling light, it must be a good thing. Is it Super S rank ninjutsu, or the ninja tool of Sage of 6 Paths? Lee Jexuan is looking forward to it. After a while, the light slowly dissipated. Lee Jexuan looked at his empty hands and murmured blankly, "Where are the things?" Congratulations, you have successfully upgraded the system and obtained the real right to use the system. The prompt from the system was still so timely. Lee Jexuan nodded secretly, and the voice of the system seems to have become a little more humane. But wait, the real right to use the system. Lee Jexuan's eyes widened suddenly. Could it be that I have been using a fake system all this time? To be precise, it's a beta version. The system said without hesitation. If you kill Lido, you have passed the test. Hearing this, Lee Jexuan's eyes widened in surprise. What extra functions does the system have? What benefits do I have? If he managed to kill Lido and the shadow level treasure chest he got just made the system speak softer, he would rather keep testing. Added a mall system and ability props from other worlds. Mall system. Lee Jexuan subconsciously turned on the system, and couldn't help drooling just by looking at it. The power of the Sage of the 6 Paths, the body of the Sage of Asura, the body of the Sage of Indra. All the good things in the whole Naruto world are in it. As long as he has enough points, he can gather the essence of the whole Naruto world in 1 moment. At that time, punching Rokudo Madara and stepping on Kagaya Hime will not be a dream. Even the ultimate bosses of the Naruto world, Daoshi and Jinshi, they are not enough to see it all. But, Asura immortal body. Millions of points. The power of the Sage of the 6 Paths, 1,000 million points. My balance, 1,200. The world is so big, the wallet is so thin. In addition to the good things in Naruto world, Li Jexuan even found the Gundam that he had been dreaming of. It seems that the ability props in other worlds refer to this. Gundam Original. 10 billion points. Not expensive or expensive, this thing is used for interstellar warfare after all. Li Jexuan comforted himself. Anyway, no matter whether he is 1 billion or 100 million, I can't afford it. How to get points? Although it was expensive, Li Jexuan did not give up. After all, compared to a treasure chest with no way to control its content, such a purchase with a clearly marked price is obviously more realistic. It can be obtained by completing system tasks and unlocking achievements. The system kindly announced, "You have completed 2 common achievements and 1 epic achievement, totaling 1200 points. Very good, give me the task." There are raging flames burning in Li Jexuan's eyes, the eyes of reincarnation, the power of immortals. Gundam, here I come. Please complete all test tasks before accepting the task. I still have tasks to complete. Li Jexuan's eyes widened in doubt, and after turning for a long time, he realized that the previous task of earning 1,000 million taels hadn't been completed yet. I didn't expect that he is as strong as a shadow level now, and he would be caught in this 1,000 million dilemma. At this moment, the system warmly reminded, given your current physical condition, the life potion can fully restore your body. At the cost of a shadow level treasure chest, the upgraded system has become more proactive and kinder. The magnificent red potion was gently shaken in the glass bottle, and Li Jexuan drank it in one gulp. A majestic energy surged into the body, and the nerves all over the body began to regrow under the urging of the medicine, and even some hidden injuries left by the previous battles were all healed. In just a moment, the whole person is like a newborn. Power surged out of my body. The effect of the system medicine is still so strong. Li Jexuan feels that his current condition is better than ever, and he can't wait to complete the task. But before he could get off the bed, Tsunade and Senju opened the door and walked in. Jia Xuanjin. Tsunade got into Li Jexuan's quilt like a swallow returning to its nest, and hugged Li Jexuan. The corners of Chinsho Feijian's eyes twitched, but in the end he resisted not speaking. "You are a vegetable, I will bear it." However, the bald dean who was standing on the side could see Chinshufei's thoughts, and shook his head at Tsunade with a smile. "Princess Tsunade, if you press Li Xiaozhi like this, it will be detrimental to his recovery." Hearing this, Tsunade decisively got under Li Jexuan's body, "Then let him hold me down, I don't want to be separated from him for a second." This time, the posture became even worse. The teeth between the 1,000 hands are about to be crushed. He is a vegetable, a vegetable. Seeing that he was doing bad things with good intentions, Dean Baldi hurriedly remedied. "Princess Tsunade, it's useless, he is in a vegetable state now, and can't feel your existence." "How could be?" Tsunade hugged Li Jexuan suspiciously. "I can feel his heartbeat, why can't he feel mine?" Seeing this, the bald dean smiled and nodded to Li Jexuan. "How is it? Brother Li, can you feel Princess Tsunade's body temperature? Not only can you feel the body temperature, but also the smooth and tender skin, the plump sensuality, and the unique milky fragrance of cute loli." Li Jexuan really wanted to say, "I feel clearly." However, Li Jexuan kept his mouth shut after looking at the 1,000-handed door that was full of murderous intent. "Hee, Brother Li can't speak, I'll do an experiment for you and you'll know." The bald dean smiled and lifted Li Jexuan's quilt, and found his knee. Normal people will have a knee jerk when they hit this place, but a vegetable like him. While talking, the bald dean raised his fist and knocked down lightly. Oh, with an incomparably swift kick, the smiling bald dean was kicked out viciously. This was just an accident, and there may still be a little nerve left in it. After a while, Dean Bald Piao covered his face and managed to get up, found Li Jexuan's other leg, and tapped lightly again. Boom! This time, Dean Bald Piao flew directly out of the window and fell on the lawn below. After another half hour, the bald dean came up with a cane, and smiled awkwardly. "This is also an accident. Such a great power, can it really be emitted by a vegetable?" If he hadn't personally sent the seriously injured Li Jexuan over, Qian Shufei even suspected, Li Jexuan wasn't injured at all, and this was just a scam to gain fame. But as soon as this idea appeared, Qian Shou Feijian repeatedly reflected on himself. "No, I can't continue to have prejudice against Li Jexuan. It was my prejudice that harmed him, I feel ashamed. Dean, take good care of him, Just ask for anything you want. Chinsho Feijian couldn't stay any longer. He was ashamed of himself, still not trusting Li Jexuan's thoughts. Pride and prejudice should not appear on a Hokage. Thousands of hands walked away, but the strange thing is that the bald dean who likes to flatter him rarely left with him. Has it been found? Li Jexuan smiled and nodded towards Tsunade. Tunit, you go outside to see off second grandpa. The current Tsunade doesn't have the slightest temper of a savage princess. As soon as Li Jexuan opened his mouth, Tsunade nodded affectionately and left, and walked out. As soon as Tsunade walked out of the ward, Dean Baldy rushed over impatiently. Throwing off the quilt, she hugged Li Jexuan's thigh and stroked it. The light blue chakra was flowing on Li Jexuan's thigh, as if he was looking for something. After a while, the bald dean put down his hand and sighed deeply. It's all over. You know I've recovered. Li Jexuan stood up with a smile, staring at the ashen-faced bald dean and teasingly, what? The patient has recovered, but you have this expression. Hearing this, Dean Bald Piao showed a smile that was uglier than crying. Your illness is cured, but we medical ninjas have to tighten our belts to live again. The 3,000 million research fee that we just applied for has not been approved yet. 2 drops of hot tears flowed from the corners of Bald Dean's eyes. You ask me why there are tears in the corners of my eyes. Because of how much I love these banknotes. Who said the money is gone? Li Jexuan smiled teasingly. Hearing this, President Bald Piao widened his eyes excitedly. Are you willing to continue pretending to be a patient? No, the face of the bald dean is like a traffic light, constantly changing. But I'd like to play a play. Li Jexuan smiled and stretched out his finger. The performance fee is 2,000 million. After confirming Kazecage's death, Hidden Sand Village became even crazier. It's completely a situation where Konoha can't die. The new Kazekage is also like history, being succeeded by the bald man named Samana. In terms of strength alone, Samana is far stronger than Lido. The puppet art and magnetic escape art based on the Hidden Sand Village in later generations were all developed by him. It can be said that without Samana, there would be no future Kazekage. Because of this, the Konoha coalition forces are under a lot of pressure now. As the coach, Chinsho Feijian must rush back to the battlefield as soon as possible. Li Jexuan, I misunderstood you before, and I apologize to you. I will let Dean Maeda take good care of you. Standing in front of Li Jexuan's hospital bed with 1,000 hands, he sincerely apologized to Li Jexuan. As for the matter between you and Tsunade, I will not ask about it again. The permission to raise a young girl promised by the grandfather himself. This is probably too powerful. Blink, blink. Li Jexuan on the hospital bed blinked desperately in disbelief. Although he really wanted to jump up and give Chinsho Feijian a big hug, but as a vegetable, he must have the professional ethics of a vegetable. What do you want to say? Seeing Li Jexuan blinking desperately, Chinsho couldn't help but squat down and listen. What do you want? Just say. The majestic Konoha Hokage, a man who combines strength and power in this world. She even took the initiative to bend her knees for him. Li Jexuan was moved, opened his mouth reluctantly, and murmured, no matter what, don't go to the land of thunder, or you will die. Okay. Chinsho stood up involuntarily. His eyes were full of confusion and guilt. Sure enough, Li Jexuan still refused to forgive him. Even at this time, curse him to die. Sorry. 2 hot tears flowed from the corners of the eyes in Chinshu's door. It was his ignorance of people that delayed Li Jexuan. After finishing speaking, Chinsho Feijian hid his face in shame and left. Li Jexuan can't hold back. The second generation, eldest brother, Brother Feijian. Li Jexuan complained silently in his heart. I misunderstood, this is really a misunderstanding. Historically, Chinsho Feijian died in the Land of Thunder. During the peace talks with Raikage, Jinzhao and Yinzhao rebelled, causing the 2 pillars of the Chinsho clan to collapse. Konoha has also declined from the wild father of the 5 kingdoms to the overlord. This feeling is as wonderful as changing from a biological father to a big brother. After thinking for a while, Li Jexuan grinned lightly, but what does this matter to him? He's just a vegetable. The night gradually deepened, and the noisy hospital gradually calmed down. Squeak. The door of Li Jexuan's ward was suddenly pushed open, and a glowing marinated egg sneaked in. By the way, can you stop being so sneaky? Li Jexuan looked at the bald dean who had a wretched face in front of the bed. and he could tell at a glance that he had done nothing good, and shook his head helplessly. With your mental quality, you still want to be corrupt. Are you afraid of being greedy for life, lifeless flowers? Hee, of course we are not as good as you, Brother Lee. On the road of corruption, you are like a bright moon in the sky. We can only look up to the rotten weeds. My admiration for you is like a surging river. Although he has no brains, the bald dean's flattering skills are getting more and more advanced. Stop. Lee Jexuan waved his hands with a sneer. I'm not embezzling, I just skipped the research and development stage and directly took out the scientific research results. This is normal labor income. Yes. Dean Bald Piao stretched out his thumb without hesitation. As expected of Brother Lee, the level of speaking is so high. Okay, stop shooting. He kept flattering, regardless of whether the horse's butt hurts or not. If you use too much force, it is easy to be teased by a horse. Lee Jexuan squinted his eyes, and whispered, how is it? Have you found everyone? Brother, I've found all the people. They are definitely professional actors. The bald dean slapped his fat chest in the B-shirt fiercely. If you say lame, you can run a marathon if you stand up. Lee Jexuan nodded lightly, and it took a while to realize. I asked you to find a patient. We want to advertise and do sales promotion. Why are you looking for an actor? Okay. The bald dean scratched his head in confusion. Didn't you mean to find a group of professional actors to pretend to be patients? Then we. You idiot. Lee Jexuan couldn't bear it anymore. Jumped up and slapped the braised egg. You are stupid. Do you still think the whole world is as stupid as you? The bald dean scratched his head with an aggrieved face. He thought the plan was perfect. Find me a batch of real patients. Lee Jexuan grinned lightly. As soon as the door leaves, it's time for us to perform. Good news. Muya Hospital has developed the potion, cure all diseases, 1 bottle of 1 course of treatment, and 1 bottle will be effective. Whether you have a cold, fever, or fatigue, as long as you drink a bottle, you will see immediate results and regain your life immediately. Next, let us take a look at the reports brought to us by the reporters in front of us at the press conference of the medicine for curing all diseases. In front of the camera, 3 snow-white hospital beds are laid carelessly in front of the hospital gate. President Bald Piao walked through it with a happy face, while Lee Jexuan lay obediently on the last hospital bed. Excuse me, Dean Yamada, I heard that you have developed a magic potion that can cure all diseases. Is this news true? In front of the journalists, President Bald Piao looked upright, nodded slightly and said, the news is true, today we are holding a press conference to cure all diseases. Hearing this, another reporter quickly asked, is this cure-all medicine real? It sounds a bit exaggerated. Although being questioned, President Bald Piao nodded with a calm smile. As the saying goes, true knowledge comes from experiments. Next, we will show the villagers in Kwanmuya the efficacy of curing all diseases. Please wait and see. With that said, the bald dean kept smiling and turned to leave. After a while, Dean Bald Piao came to Lee Jexuan's bedside, and lowered his body as if checking the patient's condition. Brother Lee, everything is going according to plan. Let's start. Lee Jexuan nodded lightly. Fathers and elders, everyone gathered here today to witness the efficacy of curing all diseases. The bald dean smiled and took 3 bottles of potions of different colors from the cute apple-faced nurse, namely light green, green, and light red. These 3 bottles of potions are the regular version, the deluxe version, and the supreme version. The bald dean smiled and waved his hands. Next, let's take a look at the effects of these potions. The camera closely followed Dean Bald, and came to the first hospital bed. This patient has a severe fever and has a runny nose. The camera thoughtfully took a close-up of the snot, and the bald dean nodded again and again. The previous red envelope was not in vain. Now, feed in our ordinary version that cures all diseases. Grumbling, the first patient quickly drank the potion. Immediately afterwards, something miraculous happened. The patient got off the bed immediately, no headache, no sore waist, no runny nose. This is simply amazing. How much is this medicine? The patient was startled, and hurriedly asked. Dean Bald Piao smiled slightly, shook his head and said, it is the duty to cure diseases and save lives. It's too unfamiliar to talk about money. What a good doctor. Simply an angel. This is the future of Konoha Medical. All of a sudden, voices of praise flew towards Dean Bald like snowflakes. It's nothing, this is what I should do. While talking, the bald dean walked towards the second hospital bed with his hands behind his back. This patient is overtired and his muscles are weak. He has been lying in bed for several days. If there is no accident, he will have to recuperate for at least a month. The bald dean smiled and took out the green potion and poured it into his mouth. But if you drink our deluxe version to cure all diseases. Grumbling, the green potion was poured into the stomach, and the healthy and strong man stood up. Put the dumbbells on. The patient, who was still weak just now, took the dumbbell and went up and down, exercising swiftly like the wind. A miracle. It's incredible. I can continue to code again. The excited patient dropped the dumbbell and grabbed the keyboard excitedly. How much is this bottle of medicine? No matter how expensive it is, I will pay you back. Hearing this, Dean Bald Piao grinned profoundly. Money is not important, what is important is the heart to cure diseases and save lives. Are we developing a cure for all diseases to make money? Dean Bald Piao stretched out 3 fingers in grief. We have spent 3,000 million taels just for research and development to cure all diseases. Besides, the cheapest bottle that cures all diseases costs 1 taels. The bald dean turned around in grief and indignation. His obese figure inexplicably lost a little bit, and a faint sadness made people's nose sore. At this moment, all the years of resentment against Konoha Medical's expensiveness dissipated from all the people in Konoha, replaced by endless guilt. It turns out that doctors are so great. They don't do it for money, but to cure diseases and save lives. Principal Bald Piao, we have wrongly blamed you. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.